Brother or monster?
Hello everyone, welcome to What If Tanjiro Was Kidnapped and Raised by Muzan and Meet Nezuko the Demon Slayer later movie. Before we start, please go support Alini369 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken characters' gender, but of course Tanjiro is a male. Tanjiro, Prince of Demons, son of Muzan the Demon King. When he was just a baby, Muzan kidnapped Tanjiro and turned him into a demon at such a young age. From that day on, Tanjiro lived his life locked in the dimension of the gates. But one day he ran away to discover the strange human world. Who would have thought he would be so fascinated and yet so annoyed? On the other hand, Nezuko, after barely surviving with Urakadaki's help, fought to become a demon slayer and take revenge on the demons. What will fate have in store for these two brothers who don't know each other? The beginning of two different stories. In situations like this, he would ask himself several things. If he had arrived earlier, could he have avoided that tragedy? Was it his fault for arriving late? No one could answer, because there was no remedy for what had happened. Urakadaki Sakanji, the water pillar, had been pursuing the Demon King for months. Today, no matter how fast his feet moved, he couldn't prevent the tragedy that occurred in that house. There, they found a mutilated man in the doorway, a decapitated woman inside, and a baby hidden in the cupboard, who, though still alive, appeared frozen. Upon searching the house, the old man confirmed that there were 4 family members, thanks to a self-portrait he found depicting the mother, father, a young boy of about a year and a half, and a baby. Unfortunately, there was no sign of the other child's body in the house. Calm down, it's all over now. Urakadaki ran as fast as he could toward his home. The little girl was crying, hungry, and cold. The pillar could only pray he would arrive quickly so he could keep the child alive. Urakadaki-sensei. What are you carrying there? Sabito. Bring water from the well, where is Giyu? Urakadaki entered his home, placing the baby between the futons. She's training, is she a baby? Sabito approached to see. Yes, tell Giyu to run to the village and bring back breast milk from a pregnant woman after he buys potatoes and sweet potatoes, Urakadaki said while concentrating on stoking the fire. Right away. Sabito hurriedly left the cabin, disappearing into the thick foliage of the great forest. Once Urakadaki managed to light the fire, he prioritized warming the baby. Little by little, the tiny girl began to develop a sweet tender color on her delicate cheeks, indicating that warmth was returning to her body. Sabito was the first to arrive with the water. A while later Giyu arrived with everything that had been requested. Night had fallen in the mountains, and the 3 inhabitants of the cabin were sitting watching the baby sleep peacefully under blankets. Poor thing, she must have been terrified. What's her name? Urakadaki took out the portrait he had taken from the house and noticed that on the back of the frame were written the names of the family Kamado, Nezuko Kamado. Nezuko, that's a lovely name, Giyu said, looking at the baby. What are you going to do with her, sensei? Sabito asked. My retirement will come very soon. I would like to raise her, not to be a hunter, I would like at least someone to be able to have a normal life here. Urakadaki gently stroked the baby's short hair. But such a terrible past, can he possibly have a normal life? Giyu asked. It doesn't matter how your story began, what matters is how you want it to end, Urakadaki said, looking at the girl. He really wanted her to have a normal life, one where she could live peacefully, without worrying about blood running down her hands. Sabai too, come on, say it, Sabito. Ibuku. Leave her alone, Sabito, she can't talk yet, said Giyu, sweeping the entrance to the cabin. Urakadaki-sensei says she's about 7 or 8 months old. If I teach her to talk, I'll be able to understand what she's saying. Sabito was sitting on a log, letting some sunlight reach Nezuko. "You said Nezuko, a little girl who still couldn't articulate any meaningful words. Sabito, say it, Sabito, or say Giyu, but say something. Sabito, Giyu, what are you doing? Urakadaki appeared. Come on. Let's train. Run. Yes, sensei. Giyu put down the broom, Sabito entrusted Nezuko to Urakadaki, and both children ran off into the forest. And you, are you hungry? Urakadaki asked, but received no answer. I'll take that as a yes. Nezuko grew up with Urakadaki, Giyu, and Sabito. She was a very happy child. They told her about her past, and she accepted it. As her father, Urakadaki, as Nezuko calls him, tells her, it doesn't matter how her story began. What matters is how she wants it to end. He always carried his family portrait, but something puzzled him. According to Urakadaki, his brother was nowhere to be found, and he wondered what had happened to him that night. That night. Cold and dark, the wind shook the trees roughly as the funereal light of the moon illuminated the path of the Demon King. He was close, seeking his prize. He had to find a descendant of the sun's breath, and now that he had finally found him, he indulged himself by going to get him personally. The father, who initially tried to defend his family, ended up bleeding to death in the doorway. The mother, who desperately tried to shelter the child in her arms, suffered a single cut and her head rolled across the ground. Tragically, her headless body dropped the child by the fire. The baby began to cry out in pain as part of his forehead touched the burning embers. The king seized the opportunity and transformed him into a demon. The wound healed, but a scar remained. Then, having achieved his goal, he calmly departed, unaware that a small human child was still hiding in the cupboard. 6 years later. We have a 7-year-old boy. He has beautiful red hair, a strange scar on his forehead, pink eyes with pupils like a cat's, skin as white as snow, and is equipped with incredibly sharp teeth and nails. He is Tanjiro Kibutsuji, the Prince of Demons. Son of Muzan Kibutsuji, the King of Demons. The boy was reading a book in his room. It had many shelves with books, all of which had been read more than once. How boring, Tanjiro complained, rolling around in his bed. He never slept in it, but it was comfortable to be there. She decided to go for a walk through the corridors of the dimension of doors. Suddenly, she ran into Nakam. "Hello Nakam-chan," Tanjiro greeted with a smile. Nakam was like a babysitter to him. She always kept a close eye on Tanjiro on Muzan's orders. "Good morning," said the demon. She didn't talk much. "Hey, Nakam-chan, do you know where my dad is?" Tanjiro asked kindly. Nakam played her biwa and a door appeared next to Tanjiro. "Oh, thank you so much, Nakam-chan." Tanjiro went through the door, arriving at his father's laboratory. His father appeared to be standing on the ceiling. "Hi Dad." Tanjiro greeted cheerfully, waving his arm in a greeting. "Hello, Tanjiro," he said without looking at him. He was reading a book. The room spun so that Tanjiro and Muzan could see each other face to face. "What's wrong?" Muzan put his book aside and looked at his son with a slight smile. Tanjiro approached. "Dad, I'm bored," Tanjiro complained. "Do you want me to give you another book?" Muzan asked, taking his son and sitting him down at the table in front of them, which was full of books and jars with liquids of all colors. "No, I've already read almost all the books you have," Tanjiro said, bored. "I don't want to go train with Kakashibo-kun, and Dauma hasn't been back for a week. I'm bored. How about you help me with my research?" Muzan proposed. "Dad, you've spent years looking for a demon that controls the sun." "I don't think such a thing exists," Tanjiro said, glancing at the books his father had on the table. "So what do you want to do?" I want to go to the human world." Tanjiro smiled excitedly. He had never left the dimension of the gates and always heard stories from Daki-chan, Dauma, or Akaza-kun about such a strange place. "Tanjiro, I've already said what I think about you going to the human world. You're still very young, and if the demon slayers find you, something bad could happen to you," Muzan said worriedly. He had grown somewhat fond of the boy he'd seen since he was a baby, though his intentions in having a son weren't just to watch him grow up to take his place in the future. No, that wasn't Muzan. He had other, more beneficial plans, both for himself and for Tanjiro, though he had to find the perfect moment. "I know, Dad, but at some point I'm going to have to leave here," Tanjiro said, pouting. "We'll see about that in the future. Now go to your room. You can paint if you want." Muzan took his son down from the table and returned to his research. Bored, Tanjiro returned to his room, but on his way he encountered 3 lower moons. They had been talking to Nakam, apparently wanting to see Tanjiro's father, but Nakam refused. A door appeared for their exit and they headed towards it. Something very funny happened in Tanjiro's mind. He saw the 3 lower moons leave dejected, and when all that was left was for the door to disappear, Tanjiro ran and went through the door without any of the moons noticing. He waited hidden for a while until he felt alone. He started looking around. He was in what appeared to be an alley, with boxes and trash. He wasn't going to stay there, so he jumped to the top of a house. Tanjiro could see the lovely view of the town where he had appeared, and he could see the humans walking peacefully under the moonlight. "Incredible," Tanjiro said. It was the first time he'd seen humans, at least alive once. "Dad's going to scold me for being here, so I'd better take advantage of the opportunity to see everything I can." Tanjiro began leaping from rooftop to rooftop, taking in as much of this strange world he had never set foot in before. He crossed a forest and, without knowing how, had reached a wall. He walked along it, relaxed and carefree, noticing that inside the wall were large gardens with flowers, trees, and decorations. Everything was peaceful for Tanjiro. "It's very nice here, could it be a millionaire's house?" Tanjiro wondered, looking at a very elegant house in the middle of the gardens. "Hey!" came a shout from an unfamiliar voice. The demon boy turned around and found himself face to face with a guy with white hair and many scars on his body. "Oh no," Tanjiro started running away from the unknown guy, who started following him, yelling at him to stop. Tanjiro didn't know where to go. He didn't know this place, so he took a chance and ventured into the garden. Along the way, he encountered other men with swords who also began to chase him. A very tall man who seemed to be crying, a serious-looking boy with black hair, a white-haired boy with circles on his face, a smiling orange-haired boy, and a boy with a snake. They were all chasing Tanjiro with swords and with the clear intention of killing him. Tanjiro managed to burst through one of the house's windows. He heard the inhabitants waking up, but he didn't care. He kept running until he reached the first floor and exited through the back. But he encountered 3 of those who wanted to kill him, and the other 3 appeared behind him. When Tanjiro realized it, he was surrounded by them all, threatening him with katanas. Looking at them more closely, he realized they were demon slayers, the kind his father had warned him to avoid. Now I was really in trouble. At that moment, Tanjiro had no escape. There were no demons nearby to protect him, and he had no sword to defend himself with the training Kakishibo had given him. So he opted to do the only thing a novice demon could do at that moment, unprotected and not knowing what to do in a strange world. She burst into tears. "I want my dad," Tanjiro cried, sitting on the ground. The men looked at each other in surprise, seeing a little demon tear up. "What's wrong with him?" asked the white-haired boy with circles on his face. "I have no idea, but it would be better to kill him now," said the white-haired man with scars. "We must finally give him eternal rest," said the weeping giant. "Wait, maybe we can get some information out of him," said the smiling orange-haired man. "Hey, you crybaby demon, do you know who Muzan Kibutsuji is?" the white-haired man asked, pointing his sword at Tanjiro, but all he managed to do was make Tanjiro cry even more intensely. "Stop crying," ordered the white-haired man with scars. "Tell us if you know who Muzan Kibutsuji is." "No. I want my dad. I want Dauma. I want Nakam-chan. Daki. Kakishibo." Tanjiro cried out in despair, calling even the devil himself to save him. "That's enough," said the dark-haired man seriously. "You're right, he's not going to tell us anything. We have to let him sleep in peace," said the crying giant. "Then, with your permission," smiled the white-haired man with scars. He was about to attack Tanjiro, but was stopped by a voice. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." A familiar voice was heard by Tanjiro. Looking towards the source of the voice, they saw Dauma on the roof of the house. "Tanjiro, Muzan-sama is very worried about you." "Dauma, I'm sorry," Tanjiro said through snot. "It's an upper moon. Attack," said the crying giant. The men went to attack the demon, but it disappeared. It had arrived alongside Tanjiro very quickly. "Tanjiro, why did you leave home? Muzan-sama is upset." Dauma picked Tanjiro up from the ground. "Sorry Dauma, I don't want to leave the house again, please take me to dad," she said with difficulty. "We're coming, Tanjiro, I'll take you to Muzan-sama," Dauma said as he let the prince snuggle into his shoulder to calm down. Suddenly, a door appeared in front of them, and before the hunters could react, the 2 demons disappeared. "Is it me or, if I understand correctly, was that demon child Kibutsuji's son?" asked a smiling orange-haired man, who was no longer smiling at all. The house Tanjiro entered turned out to be the home of the leader of the demon slayers, nicknamed the Master Oyakata-sama. They also realized that the demon who had taken in the demon child had killed the flower pillar, Kani, and her sister Shinobu had taken her place. With Tanjiro and Dauma, they had arrived at the dimension of the gates. There was Muzan and Nakam in the Demon King's office, the books were lying on the floor, and the table was broken, it looked as if it had been punched. "Dad," said Tanjiro, climbing down from Dauma's arms and running into his father's arms. Tanjiro Muzan knelt on one knee and took his son in his arms. "I was very worried. Don't ever do something like that again, do you hear me?" "I'm so sorry, Dad, I promise I won't disobey you anymore." Tanjiro hugged his father tightly, but his father pulled away to look at him closely. "Are you alright? Did anyone hurt you?" Muzan asked, seeing his son still in one piece. "I'm fine, but I was really scared. Those hunters you told me about were chasing me, and I didn't do anything to them." Tanjiro wiped away his tears with his hands. "Don't worry, no one will hurt you anymore." Muzan hugged his son. The 2 moons left father and son alone. Finally, Tanjiro fell asleep in his father's arms. It wasn't normal for demons to sleep, and even less so for Tanjiro, but now he needed it. He had had a stressful moment. Muzan took him to his room, laid him on his bed, and looked at him. "One day you will eliminate the hunters for me, son, but you have to become strong," Muzan said, leaving his son in his room. Tanjiro's destiny was written by Muzan, who would influence him as much as possible to ensure his son fulfilled his fate. And when Tanjiro accomplished his mission, Muzan would have a different destiny in mind for his son, one of his most successful experiments. Nezuko Kamado, future huntress. "Nezuko. Come back here. You can't catch me. Ha ha ha." There she is, Nezuko Kamado, a cute 6-year-old girl, truly happy living with her father Urakadaki and her brothers Sabito and Gyu. Most days she enjoyed watching her brothers train and her father going to and from his missions as a pillar. There was also Makomo, a cute girl she played with every afternoon in the forest, though her father was startled when Nezuko told him she had a friend with that name. Nezuko. Sabito shouted as she came out of the house with her Haori askew. Ahaha, Nezuko laughed, but she couldn't move forward when Gyu caught her at the exit. Gyu, let me go. No, you're a lady. Arrange your clothes properly and that way you'll have a suitor someday. Gyu entered the cabin. She's not going to get married, Sabito complained. Of course not. Nezuko insisted, now on the ground. Dad already rejected my suitors. Wait, what did you say? Sabito asked. Dad told me I had suitors, but I've already rejected them because I'm not getting married, Nezuko said, straightening her clothes by herself. I feel like I'm betraying them. I was supposed to be the one to reject Nezuko's suitors, Sabito said, crossing his arms. Well, Urakadaki-sensei already beat you to it, Gyu said calmly. What about me? Urakadaki appeared in the doorway of the cabin. Dad. Nezuko threw herself into his arms. Isn't it true that I don't have any suitors anymore? And you didn't tell me, I feel offended, Sabito said, feigning offense. These were families who wanted Nezuko only because they think she'll be a beautiful girl in the future, and that could bring them good offspring of course, nothing a threat can't solve, Urakadaki said, sitting down on a futon. It's clear that Nezuko will be a lovely girl when she grows up. Yes. I'll be quite the heartbreaker. Nezuko laughed, still hugging her father. Sure they are, and what are you two doing standing there like vagrants? Your final selection is just a few days away, go train, Urakadaki ordered his pupils. Yes sensei, they both left in a good mood. It was fun to see Urakadaki giving orders while Nezuko braided his beard. It's a shame that happy moments don't last forever. Sabito's death in the final selection resulted in a period of sadness in Nezuko's life. Urakadaki retired as a pillar, Gyu became even more serious and was promoted to pillar for inventing the 11th stance. He came to Nezuko infrequently and only for a few hours at a time. On one of his visits, he told Nezuko that the Demon King apparently had a child. Nezuko didn't care much. She just wanted everything to go back to the way it was before. But no, it was all the demon's fault. Ever since she was a baby, demons had ruined her life and she longed to exterminate them once and for all. No. Because. I won't let you go down that path. You'll ruin your life. I'm not going to let others decide my future. If I want to be a huntress, it will be with or without your help. Nezuko was determined. She wanted to be a demon slayer. If she didn't take revenge into her own hands, she wouldn't be able to sleep peacefully. Her family, Sabito, and who knew how many others had died at the hands of demons, all that slaughter had to end once and for all. That's why she was arguing with her father now. She was 9 years old. If she started her training now, she could make her final selection at 13. Understand this, Nezuko, if you become a hunter you'll always be in danger. You deserve a life without worries. Urakadaki tried to negotiate with his daughter, but there was something in her character that was possibly inherited from her biological family. She never gave in. I don't want a quiet life. It would be like living in ignorance. Besides, I'll always know the demons are out there, killing, eating, destroying. I need to know that if I die, at least it was defending and avenging those I've lost. Please, Dad, let me be a huntress. Do you really want to die like this? With your pieces scattered on the ground, becoming a monster's snack. At least I won't let my death be in vain, I'm going to fight until my lungs burst. And what if you don't even last a week? Do you know the pain your death will bring? For me, it will completely destroy me. Dad, don't say that, I'm not going to let them kill me, nor will I let anyone else die. You can't guarantee that. Nobody can guarantee that you'll still be alive tomorrow or even this afternoon. That depends on you, and you want to throw yourself into the fire like an idiot. I can survive even the strongest flames. If I have to fight on fire I will fight, if I have to jump into the abyss I will do it. My will is strong, I am unbreakable. Those are just words, Nezuko. Dreaming is one thing, but looking death in the eye is quite another. I repeat, you're throwing yourself into the fire. I don't care. You yourself have told me that throughout my life, I have to fight for what I want, and I want to fight in Sabito's memory for what he couldn't achieve. If he were alive he would put you in chains and leave you tied to a tree until you changed your mind. Understand this, you will be wasting your life if you become a hunter. It's already being wasted. With demons, everyone's life is always in danger. Tranquility isn't an option. Look, Dad, you and I both know it. From the moment you found me, my life was already marked. My destiny is intertwined with the demons. If I don't exterminate them, I'll have been just a link in a long chain. Promise me that if at any time you see that your life is in danger, it doesn't matter if someone else dies, promise me that you will live, you will always come first, and then everyone else. I promise, Dad, Nezuko said, hugging her father. She had to admit that promise would be difficult to keep, but at least she could kill the demons. With each passing year, Nezuko grew stronger, and the trials became more difficult. She didn't even realize when Urokodaki set so many traps. Her agility and speed became extraordinary, and she began fighting Urokodaki with a wooden sword. Of course, she was a beginner, so he taught her how to hold it properly and handle it so it wouldn't break. At first, Nezuko took terrible beatings, but as time went on, she could more or less match Urokodaki. Some time later. One day, Urokodaki led Nezuko through the forest, saying he had already shown her everything. They arrived at a huge rock. Nezuko didn't understand at first, but she didn't know what to think when her father told her that to go to the final selection, she had to split the rock in half. He didn't even let her say anything before Urokodaki left, leaving her alone and confused. How am I supposed to cut a rock? It's impossible, I'll end up breaking my arm and 20 swords before the rock. No. I have to keep going, I must be a demon slayer, Nezuko told herself resolutely, she wouldn't give up so easily. I already jumped off a cliff once, breaking a rock should be easy. He practiced the water breath forms too much, so much so that he pushed them to the limit that he ended up inventing a new form. He had invented the 12th water breath stance, called Destructive Wave, which consisted of a vertical attack, from bottom to top and back down again. With this attack, he was able to cut the rock in half, still far from the final selection. Urokodaki was impressed. Nezuko was a prodigy. He'd known it from the first time he saw her train, but now, witnessing her incredible progress was astonishing. Urokodaki was so amazed that he wrote a letter to Gyu, who then told the leader of the Demon Slayer Corps, Oyakata-sama. Because of that letter, Nezuko, along with Urokodaki, were now in front of the hunter leader's estate. I can't believe I'm seeing the leader of the Demon Slayers. Nezuko exclaimed, jumping up and down, incredibly excited. They were waiting for the large wooden door to open. I've heard stories about him. They say he seems to be enlightened and all. Relax, don't say anything inappropriate, be respectful, don't speak unless he asks you to, and don't even think about interrupting him, Urokodaki warned. Yes, be respectful, Nezuko repeated, still clearly excited. Urokodaki-sensei Gyu appeared, serious as always. Gyu, it's good to see you, Nezuko said with a smile. The wooden door suddenly opened, revealing a beautiful woman with white hair. It's a pleasure to receive you. I'll take you to Oyakata-sama. Please follow me. The woman let the three of them in. They walked in silence along the garden paths, a spacious garden. It's beautiful, whispered Nezuko, looking at the hundreds of flowers and trees that grew there. The previous one was nicer, but we had to move to this one, the woman said with a serene smile. They didn't speak anymore. When they arrived at a large, very elegant house, they went to the patio. Urokodaki and Gyu knelt on the ground, and Nezuko imitated them because she didn't know exactly what to do. A while later, a man who seemed to have a strange illness, accompanied by the white-haired woman, came out of the house, and the man sat down on a futon. Tell me, Amain, is the girl here? The man asked. Nezuko was impressed by the peace he brought with a few simple words. Yes, husband, she's with the former water pillar Sakanji, the current water pillar Tomioka, her name is Nezuko Kamado, the woman replied calmly. Tell me, Kamado, is it true that you invented a new stance for water breathing? Asked the black-haired man, who could barely distinguish shapes, looking at the blur that was possibly Nezuko. Oh, yes. It was me. Nezuko was very nervous about talking to someone so powerful and at the same time serene and kind. Urokodaki, how is her training going? The sick man asked. She's agile and fast, she's been practicing all the stances a lot, and she's already qualified for the final selection. I'd say she's a real prodigy, he summarized, slightly surprising Oyakata-sama. This year's final selection is in 6 months, but I think we can move it up just for her, the leader said thoughtfully. Nezuko was surprised. She was only 12 years old and was already going to make the final selection. She was supposed to do it when she was 13. That's how it will be, Oyakata-sama said after a moment of thought. In a week, Kamado will go to the final selection. If he passes, he'll go on missions until he reaches Hino rank, at which point he'll begin training as Gyu's Tsugayo, eventually becoming a pillar himself. Oh really? Nezuko stammered. The pillar? She never would have imagined it. She barely wanted to be the lowest-ranking swordsman, and now they were saying she could be a pillar. She felt like she was going to faint. Someone get her some water or something. Everything's cleared up, we'll see each other again. Oyakata-sama stood up and, with his wife's help, left. Alright Nezuko, let's go home. This week you'll have special training in preparation for the final selection. Urokodaki stood up. But Nezuko didn't know what to say. She was in shock. I have to go now. It was a pleasure seeing you, Urakadaki-sensei Nezuko. I'll see you again in a few years as my Tsugayo, Gyu said in his typical tone before leaving. Come on Nezuko, we have to go back. Urakadaki started walking. But Dad. Don't leave me. She said, chasing after her father. He couldn't believe it. He was going to make the final selection before everyone else, and all this was because he had invented a new position. As soon as they returned, Urakadaki, having done his duty, gave Nezuko a training session so that she could pass the final selection with honors. Urakadaki had given Nezuko a disaster prevention mask the day before she had to leave. Nezuko sensed something strange about Urakadaki, as if he were afraid of something. Some time later, the day arrived and Nezuko was on her way to the site of the final selection in previous years. The only difference now was that she would be alone on that mountain with many demons. Someone explained to her what she'd gotten herself into. Upon reaching his destination among that pile of ice plants, he encountered two apparent girls. They were standing there waiting for Nezuko. Nice to see you Kamado Nezuko. Your final selection will begin today, the two girls said, sounding a little intimidating. Relations are abundant in this place because demons hate them. Further on you won't find a single one, said the white-haired woman. You must survive 7 days on this demon-infested mountain. If you manage to survive, you will pass the final selection, said the raven-haired woman who, looking at her closely now, might not even be a woman. We'll now begin your final selection. The two girls stepped aside so Nezuko could pass. Nezuko began to walk, venturing into what, if she wasn't prepared, would be her undoing. But she had to fight. She had to fight if she ever wanted to take revenge on the demons. A powerful demon and a huntress. When Tanjiro woke up, he was surprised that he had been able to sleep. Now he was a little hungry, so he decided to go out and find Nakam to get something to eat. When he came out, the first thing he encountered was Jyoteru, and without warning he received a large, suffocating hug from Daki. Tanjiro. I was so worried about you. When Muzan-sama ordered me to look for you, I even went into an orphanage to see if you were there, Daki said, nearly killing Tanjiro. Let him go, you're going to kill him, Jyoteru said with his usual expression, as if he had just found out that he would have to repeat the exam again. It's good to see you too, Daki, Tanjiro said with a smile when Daki left him, but then he received a blow to the head from Jyoteru. That's so you don't disobey Muzan-sama. He knows what's best for you, and you're not ready to go out into the human world anyway, Jyoteru said grumpily. Sorry, Tanjiro said, looking down. Don't be sad. Yes, you worried us all, but you're here now, how about we go get something to eat? Are you hungry? Daki extended her hand to Tanjiro, who took it with a smile. Yes. I was going to go to Nakam-chan so she could give me something to eat, Tanjiro smiled. Nakam doesn't know how to give you quality meat, I do, come on, let's go. Daki started walking with Tanjiro and Jyoteru behind her. On the way, Tanjiro encountered Dauma and Kakishibo. Dauma hugged him, and Kakishibo punched him. Later, while speaking with Muzan-sama, they found Akaza. Muzan had ordered Akaza that when Tanjiro was ready to leave, he would always accompany him as a bodyguard. Then Muzan told the moons that when Tanjiro came out, they would come to his call no matter where they were or what they were doing. If Tanjiro needed them, they would go without hesitation. He was the prince of demons. If anything happened to Tanjiro, Muzan would go mad because his plan would have gone to hell and his only son would have died. Now, after all those warnings, Tanjiro could finally go eat, but afterward he was sent to train with Kakishibo. He would eventually leave and have to defend himself against the demon slayers, and right now he could barely keep up with Nakam. If he wanted to be a worthy prince, he had to surpass even Muzan. And with that in mind, they began years of arduous training to turn him into a powerful demon. But Nezuko. She had barely entered the mountain when she was attacked by demons. She could only sleep during the day and fight relentlessly at night. As if that weren't enough, the rumor that there was only one girl on a mountain full of demons had apparently spread to the most remote demons of the mountain. That is why we now see Nezuko on her 5th day, leaning on her sword, her clothes dirty and torn, her face covered in dirt and sweat, her hair tangled with branches, and an empty stomach that longed to be filled. I think it would have been easier if other swordsmen were here, that way the demons wouldn't have come at me so suddenly, or at least not so many at once, Nezuko complained, walking slowly under the moonlight. I still have 2 days, just 2 days. Crack. The demon tried to attack Nezuko from behind. She heard its footsteps, and with the water's surface position, it was decapitated. Nezuko sighed. Her lungs ached, but she continued walking. On the penultimate day, she allowed herself the peace of resting hidden in the top of a tree. No demon saw her. And on the last day he went to the finish line, going up the stairs where he had found the two girls next to a table with several metal rectangles. Congratulations Kamado Nezuko, you arrived safe and sound, the girl said. Thank you, Nezuko smiled weakly. Your official hunter outfit will be ordered, in the meantime take a messenger, said the white-haired girl, as a crow fell from the sky and flew to Nezuko's head. Now choose what materials you want your sword to be made of. The black-haired child showed the metals. Nezuko chose what she thought would be good materials, but she had no experience with swords. The girl saw her off, and Nezuko had to return to Urakadaki's house alone. It was slow, everything hurt, and the crow hadn't moved from your head. The sun was almost setting when Nezuko arrived at Urakadaki's house. Dad. I'm home. Nezuko couldn't hold it in any longer, collapsing to the ground. The frightened crow flew to a nearby tree. Urakadaki had left the house, and as soon as he heard his daughter, he ran and hugged her. You're finally back alive. Urakadaki exclaimed, still hugging Nezuko. Dad, I did it, I'm a demon slayer, Nezuko said weakly. She couldn't wait any longer and fell asleep. She needed a long sleep to regain her energy and for her wounds to heal completely. 3 days later she awoke. Urakadaki, though he didn't show it, was truly happy. Nezuko was no less so, even jumping for joy. She wanted the days to pass quickly so she could go on her first mission as an official demon slayer, but in the meantime, she focused on training a little so her muscles could relax and recover. 12 days later, while Nezuko was calmly meditating on a log with her crow on her head, she could feel someone approaching. Turning her head, she saw someone walking towards the house. Wind chimes, Nezuko whispered, looking at the man's large hat. She stood up and, standing in the doorway of the house, greeted him. My name is Higa Nezuko, I am the one who forged the sword for Kamado Nezuko, said the man without revealing his face. I am Kamado Nezuko, the named girl smiled excitedly, but her smile faded when she saw the man sit on the floor. But please stand up. This is a Nichiren sword. I forged this sword myself, made with materials from the mountain. The man was talking about how he made the sword and where he got the materials. Nezuko, meanwhile, was asking him to come inside. Because of all the commotion, Urakadaki went out to see what was happening. Now the three of them were sitting inside the house. Nezuko held her sword in her hand and nervously drew it. She, Higa Nezuko, and Urakadaki all thought she would turn blue. Since she handled her water breath so well and had even invented a new stance, it would have been obvious that she would turn blue, but she didn't. Black. The three wondered upon seeing the deep black of the sword. Black? Why is it black? Is it a bad sign? Nezuko asked nervously. No, it's fine, but I've never seen one like this before. It's as black as a shadow, Urakadaki said, carefully observing the sword. Why? And here I thought I'd get to admire a beautiful dark blue again. Higa Nezuko complained. Kawa. Mission for Kamado Nezuko. Kawa. Go northeast. The inhabitants disappear when they go to the well at night. Investigate. Go northwest. Kawa. The crow chirped at the window. Finally. A mission. Nezuko stood up and went to change. Her swordsman's outfit had arrived that very day, before Higa Nezuko even got there. Her haori was striped with horizontal pink and light blue lines. As soon as she was ready, she said goodbye to her father and Higa Nezuko, setting off on her new mission guided by the crow perched on her head. Time skip. Nezuko was currently 14 years old, almost 15. She was just a few months away. She was now at Tsuchino ranked warrior, needing only Hinoto to reach Hino rank and begin her training with Gyu. For this reason, she was very happy, and taking advantage of having finished her mission ahead of schedule, she strolled peacefully through the crowded streets of Asakusa and Tokyo Prefecture. The day was a productive day, Nezuko smiled. He liked that feeling when a mission went well and without a single death, apart from the demons, of course. Soon all that tranquility vanished when he heard something pressing on his chest. Looking around, he searched until he thought he saw something, and he walked through the crowd to touch someone's shoulder. Turning around, she saw a man in a white hat, formal suit, with black hair and cat-like eyes. Nezuko knew it. He was a demon. But he wasn't alone. Beside him stood a boy of about 15 or 16, wearing a red and black suit, with red hair and cat-like eyes. He was another demon. Nezuko gripped the hilt of her sword, ready to attack, but… Daddy, Ani-chan, who is this person? The demon with the white hat was carrying a small girl in his arms. Nezuko couldn't believe what she was seeing. It was impossible that these two demons were living like humans. I don't know, darling. Do you need something? You seem upset, the raven-haired man asked Nezuko, who began to tremble. Oh, what's wrong? A lady in a white dress arrived. Mother. The girl and the red-haired boy said to the lady with a smile. They seemed like a happy family, it was impossible. 1,000 questions raced through Nezuko's mind. Did they know they were demons? Did they not know what they were? How did they go unnoticed? Too many unanswered questions, and Nezuko was now in a very difficult position. Where did all those years of training go? Now I couldn't even feel my legs. Is this someone you know? The woman asked calmly, with a smile. No, she's just a girl I don't know. I think she has a problem. Could it be that she's mistaken me for someone else? The man in the hat looked at Nezuko, who was pale and motionless. Nezuko saw the black-haired man with the hat glance sideways at the Redeed, giving him a signal. The Redeed, with a movement of his arm, scratched the neck of a man next to him who had nothing to do with it, he was just passing by. I see, so that's what it's all about, the woman said thoughtfully, unaware of what had happened. No. Nezuko pushed through the family to reach the wounded man, or rather, the newly transformed demon. Stop. Nezuko tackled the demon before it could bite its apparent wife, and using the hilt of her sword, she prevented it from using its teeth against her. The people around began to get agitated and leave. Ray-san, it's too dangerous, we'd better leave, said the man in the hat, taking his daughter and wife with him. Nezuko could do nothing to stop them from leaving, but she could see how the Redeed, before leaving with his family, looked at her with a victorious and arrogant smile, then disappeared into the crowd. Damn demons, Nezuko whispered to herself. Hey, you bastard, as soon as I'm done here I'm coming for you, I'll kill you both. You don't deserve to live, you pieces of shit. Author's note. Cough, cough, I don't think it'll hurt Nezuko to say a swear word or two, right? Well, there you have it. The man in the white hat opened his eyes in surprise, and a feeling of hatred towards the girl began to grow inside him. Who did she think she was to insult him? And after that, his son too. This hunter wouldn't let it go today. The demons and the two humans finally left. Nezuko struggled with the demon, everyone around her staring in fear. She didn't know what to do, and as people of authority approached, she had to make a decision. In a swift movement, she drew her sword and severed the demon's head, terrifying everyone around her. Many ran away while the now widowed woman wept on the ground. As she was about to leave, a strange smoke appeared, and her surroundings suddenly changed. Now there was a floral pattern, and in the center stood two peculiar demons. You're a huntress. Do you know who you just cursed? The demon woman said. A demon, are you guys going to fight too, or are we done now? Said Nezuko, grabbing her sword just in case. Don't worry, we won't hurt you. It's obvious to you that we're demons, but we're different, the woman said. The man just stared at Nezuko seriously. What do you mean, different? Nezuko asked suspiciously. Even though I'm a demon, I'm also a doctor, and I want to kill the man you insulted, the so-called demon king, the demon woman said, surprising Nezuko, who sheathed her sword in a gesture of truce. But Tanjiro. Muzan and Tanjiro were saying goodbye to the girl and the woman, who were about to get into a car. Daddy, aren't you coming with us? Asked a little girl in her mother's arms. I still have lectures to attend, and I'll take Tanjiro with me so he can learn, Muzan said calmly. Husband, the worried woman tried to speak. We'll be alright, mother, Tanjiro smiled. I'll just ask the police officers a few questions, Muzan smiled and began walking in the opposite direction from his wife and daughter. Tanjiro followed him. Dad, what was wrong with that huntress? She seemed in shock, Tanjiro asked after a while. Muzan stopped walking and looked at his son with a calm expression. He's probably never seen a demon as powerful as me before and he was afraid to face me, Muzan said. Tanjiro believed him. You must be hungry. Why don't you go eat something and we'll meet again in half an hour to go home. Okay, Dad, see you later. Tanjiro smiled cheerfully as he crossed the street and disappeared into the city's alleyways. Muzan lowered his gaze and entered another alley where he encountered a couple of people unfortunate enough to fall victim to his wrath. Still enraged, Muzan snapped his fingers and two demons appeared. What is your order? The two demons asked, their heads bowed and kneeling before the king. I want to remove the head of the Haori-wearing woman with the pink and light blue stripes, do you understand? Muzan said, more serious than ever and quite frightening. No one dared insult him, especially not in front of his son. Nezuko the warrior and Tanjiro the hungry assassin. Now we find Nezuko facing the two demons. It was very strange to her that they weren't trying to kill her. Part of her wanted to know what they wanted to tell her about the Demon King, another part just wanted to kill them and go buy something to eat. I haven't introduced myself yet, my name is Tomeo and he is Yoshino, said the now named woman. I am Kamado Nezuko, you are demons, why haven't you attacked me yet? She asked. I am able to control my body at will, which allows me to break Kibutsuji's curse, Tomeo said. Who is Kibutsuji? She asked again, confused. You insult the Demon King and you don't even know his name, Yoshino mocked. Forgive me for not knowing the name of a demon I want to kill. Not that I'd care after I've cut off his head. Nezuko crossed her arms. Muzan Kibutsuji, that's the name of the Demon King, Tomeo said, looking at her. Muzan Kibutsuji. Nezuko pondered the name. It was strange that a monster of his caliber would have a name. What does it mean that you can manipulate your body? That means I can survive even without human flesh, Tomeo replied. I just need a small amount of blood. Interesting. Nezuko needed to process the information, but a question came to her mind. Tomeo, how old are you? Don't be rude. Don't ask a lady's age like that, you rude girl. Yoshino punched Nezuko in the shoulder. Asuka. In case you didn't know, I'm considered a beauty in my family. Nezuko retorted, about to draw her sword and decapitate the annoying demon. Yoshino. If you hit him again, I won't forgive you. Tomeo warned angrily. Understood. Said Yoshino, returning to his place. Ugh, putting that aside, Tomeo-san, I want you to tell me everything you know about Muzan. Maybe then I'll consider letting them go for now. Nezuko sheathed her sword. But I can't swear that another demon slayer wouldn't arrive without the intention of killing them. Don't worry, it's difficult to find us, Tomeo replied. Is there any way to turn a demon into a human? Ever since she started fighting demons, she'd considered the possibility of turning them back into humans, and now that she had a demon doctor in front of her, it would be quite useful if she had an answer. There's one, Tomeo said. Seriously? She exclaimed, approaching Tomeo, but Yoshino pulled her back. Yoshino, a dark aura surrounded Tomeo. I didn't hit her, I only pushed her, the demon defended himself. Neither, Tomeo said, now calmer. There's a cure for every disease, however, for now there's no cure for turning demons into humans, although I think I could experiment to find an antidote. Really, Tomeo-san? Could you make a cure? A cure for demons would be amazing for us demon slayers, Nezuko said. The possibility of a cure was truly incredible. I could, but I need to experiment. It would be very helpful for my research if you could provide me with demon blood, Nezuko. I'd be helping a demon, that goes against the Demon Slayer Code PFFT, since when do I follow the code? I fight demons every day. How much blood do you want? Nezuko smiled. But if you betray me, I'll personally nail you to the roof and leave you there until the sun takes your souls to hell. Of course, but I don't need just any demon's blood, I need the blood of a demon who has drunk Kibutsuji's blood, Tomeo said, shaking off the fear Nezuko's threat had instilled in her. It would be a risky task. You seem skilled, but we're still talking about very powerful demons. I don't mind. This will not only help me in my training, but it will also help other demons. Many lives will be saved, Nezuko said with a friendly smile. Yes, Tomeo smiled slightly. That little happiness that had filled the room vanished when Nezuko sensed danger. Yoshino had also sensed it and did not hesitate to protect Tomeo when a ball went through the walls, breaking everything in its path. A ball? Nezuko asked, drawing her sword. Through the largest hole they had left in the house, a black-haired demon with orange tips could be seen. She was carrying a ball in both hands, in addition to her enormous smile. Ahaha, I found you. I found you. Laughed the girl as she threw a ball towards Nezuko, who dodged it and went to attack the demon girl, but the ball changed direction in mid-air, going behind Nezuko. As she dodged it, she knocked off the head of Yoshino who was defending Tomeo. She's already dead. Nezuko shouted worriedly. This was the first pleasant conversation she had with demons. That worry turned to anger. Nezuko took her sword in her hands and with a serious look stared at the demon. Ahaha, I killed someone, laughed the demon, the hunter in the light blue and pink striped Haori. Is that you, right? They're here because of me, Nezuko whispered coldly. Tomeo-san, get out of here. I'll take care of her. And remember, you'd better not betray me. Don't worry about us, focus on their fight, we'll be fine even without your protection, because we are demons, Tomeo said. The smiling demon threw the other ball towards Nezuko, who swiftly used her seventh form. Curved wave pattern piercing attack. Thanks to this, he pierced the ball with his sword, but it still hit him in the face. Nezuko needed to understand how the balls worked. Yoshino had regained her composure and began to say everything that bothered her about the presence of that demon. She cursed her for interfering in her precious time with Tomeo, pure nonsense that Nezuko was not interested in hearing, while she put her life in danger. Alright, let's play. Until the night is over, until your lives are over. The demon smiled and laughed, sprouting 2 extra arms on each side of her torso. She now had 6 arms in total, each holding a ball, which she threw simultaneously with overwhelming force. Nezuko calmed down and sighed, then looked ahead determinedly, seeing how those balls were coming with the intention of turning her into a cheese. She would not let that happen, neither to her nor to the 2 civilized demons behind her. Using her superior agility, she began dodging and cutting off the balls. 2 had managed to hit Yoshino and 1 Tomeo, but she ignored this. They were demons, they wouldn't die so easily. So she decided to go for the main source. She advanced, dodging the balls, which were difficult to avoid due to their constant changes in direction. This was nothing compared to all the time Nezuko had spent fighting demons. She knew all their tricks. Besides, she wasn't a Tsuchino rank fighter for nothing. Water breathing, 3rd form. Continuous rapid dance. Nezuko exclaimed, then began slicing the balls in half, drawing ever closer to the demon. Riding the current of her momentum, she was able to strike the demon, severing its head. The demon's body fell to the ground. Now I have another reason to kill powerful demons. I need their blood. There's another one. It's in the tree. Yoshino shouted, pointing at the tree. Breath of water, 12th form, sea wave. A strong current of air hit the tree, moving it. The demon fell to the ground. Don't kick up so much dust, it's very dirty. Complained the demon, who for some reason had his eyes in the palms of his hands. The demon stood before her. She could see him cutting her throat, but just as he tried, a black arrow appeared beneath her and threw her against a tree. More arrows appeared immediately. They carried her to the left, up, and were about to throw her to the ground, but she spun around and landed on one knee, glaring at the demon. I'm not a rag doll for you to treat me like this, you damn demon. Nezuko thought of a possibility. The arrows only appeared on surfaces, so she didn't have to touch the ground. Propelling herself with her legs, she jumped at the demon. He was going to use his arrows against a huntress as soon as she touched the ground, but he did not anticipate that she could cut off his hands, leaving him blind, and before he could regenerate them, Nezuko had cut off his head, finally causing his body to fall to the ground. Phew, that was close, Nezuko sighed, standing up. She had a cut on her cheek and her hands were trembling slightly. Yoshino, Tomeo-san, are you alright? Yes, we're fine, Tomeo said, before approaching the demon girl's body. Neither of them was a demon moon, right? Nezuko asked, sheathing her sword. No, but I can still use their blood for something. Tomeo took samples of the blood of the two demons. It's almost morning, you have to leave here, the huntress warned. You should go too, take care Nezuko, we'll see each other another time, Tomeo said, smiling slightly. Take good care of yourselves. I'll send you the blood samples when I find demon moons. Nezuko drew her sword and pointed it at them. And remember. We're not going to betray you, Tomeo assured. Ah, see you later, pacifist demons, Nezuko smiled, preparing to leave. Nezuko Yoshino called to her, her back turned. You are a beautiful lady. She simply smiled and then left the place. The sun rose, ushering in a new day, and Nezuko walked along a path leading away from the city. Go southeast. Go southeast. Go southeast. Repeated the crow perched on his head. Yes, yes, I understand, she said tiredly. She needed to sleep a little. Crow, in the end, did you agree to give me those 3 days I asked for to go see Dad? Oh. Yes, only 3 days. After 2 more missions. Only 3 days. Cried the crow, flapping its wings. She smiled to herself. It had been a while since she had visited her father. She was happy to be able to visit him, but that thought was interrupted when she met a boy and a girl on the way. Please. Please. Marry me. Please. A blonde-haired boy cried, clinging to a black-haired girl. I don't know when I'm going to die. So please, marry me. Huh? He didn't understand the situation in front of him, and apparently his raven didn't quite understand the scene either, because he stopped talking just to look at what was happening. And who is this? Of Tanjiro hours earlier. Tanjiro had wandered away from his father to get something to eat. He didn't want anything fancy, but he didn't want to eat at a street stall either, so he decided to go into a seemingly middle-class house. He entered through an open second-floor window and found himself in a little girl's room, where she was sleeping peacefully. "Oh, cutie," Tanjiro said, smiling before his expression turned sadistic. He grabbed the girl by the neck with his claws and began to choke her. "Don't worry, you'll be asleep soon." Tanjiro could see the panic flashing in the girl's eyes. She stared at him with pure terror. Tanjiro just smiled amicably, etching that image into the girl's mind. "Ni-chan. I want to play, are you asleep?" A younger child had entered the room, becoming a witness to how a stranger was suffocating his sister. Tanjiro threw the girl to the ground, knocking her unconscious. Before the brat could scream, he punched him so hard on the head that he shattered his skull. "Yukio. Let your sister sleep," came the voice of what appeared to be a mother, coming up the stairs. "I told you we shouldn't have given him hot chocolate after dinner, now everything's interactive." Tanjiro could bet anything that was his father. Tanjiro hid in the shadows, wanting to see what the parents would do when they saw their 2 children on the ground, one soaked in blood and the other dying. "Hey, Yukio, where is he?" The mother was the first to see the heartbreaking scene. She ran and took the child in her arms as tears streamed uncontrollably. "Yukio. Yukio. Wake up, Yukio. May. Yukio. Nichika." The father entered and took his daughter's body in his arms. "But what happened?" "I passed by, my apologies for not knocking." With a smile he emerged from the shadows, and without giving them time to react, the 2 parents were beheaded. Tanjiro feasted that night and, purely for his own pleasure, left the girl alive. For now, she was unconscious, but when she awoke, she would find the bones and remains of those who had once been her family. Thus satisfied, Tanjiro left the house and went to look for his father to go home. When he found him, he was at the top of the tallest house in the city. "Dad. I'm home." Tanjiro arrived with a big happy smile. Tanjiro, remember to clean yourself after eating. Muzan looked at the bloodstains on his son's face. Oh. Sorry, Tanjiro said, pulling a whitish handkerchief from his pocket to quickly wipe away the traces of his food. He put it away again. Now then, shall we go, Dad? Let's go, Muzan snapped his fingers and a door appeared beside him, the work of Nakim. Father and son passed through the door, arriving in the dimension of doors. Tanjiro went to his room to read, and Muzan went to his office waiting for those two demons he had sent to kill the huntress to return, so he could tell them that there was one less nuisance in the world. Unfortunately for Muzan, they never arrived. That only meant that the huntress was still alive. If she had been able to survive two demons of that level, it would surely bring her trouble in the future. Damn you, Muzan growled, tearing up the book he was holding. One day I will have your head in my hands. Zenitsu and the boar boy. Nezuko watched the scene before her with bewilderment. A boy with yellow hair, apparently a member of the Demon Slayer Corps, was clinging to a girl as if his life depended on it. But what? Nezuko wondered. A sparrow flew up to her face and started saying something in sparrow language. I understand now, I'll do something. Please. Marry me. The blonde-haired boy pleaded, but then he was dragged in the opposite direction from the girl, and she took the opportunity to flee, shouting, "You're a disgrace." What are you doing? Nezuko asked, putting the boy down. Can't you see she doesn't want that? Besides, you've been bothering your sparrow. You're a huntress. Said the blonde-haired boy in surprise. Yes, I'm a huntress, and you should think about your behavior. That was very bad. Nezuko was about to give the boy a long lecture on how to behave with a woman if he really wanted to get married someday, but what the boy did was cling to Nezuko's waist. Marry me? I'm about to die. I'm so weak, and I'm not exaggerating. Marry me and protect me. Cried the yellow-haired boy. Nezuko tried to push him away, but he flatly refused. I can't get married. I'm only 14 and I don't even know you. Nezuko slapped the boy so hard that he fell to the ground. But we can get to know each other. My name is Agatsuma Zenitsu. The boy knelt down and took Nezuko's hands. Your beauty is unparalleled. Please marry me. My name is Komodo Nezuko, and now, I say goodbye. Nezuko released the boy's grip and started running away from Zenitsu, but stopped when she heard the blonde-haired boy curled up in a fetal position on the ground, crying. What's wrong with him? He's like a chicken that escaped from the coop, now being chased by its owner with an axe. Nezuko slowly approached. The guy was crying as if every bone in his body was broken, and that was honestly scary. Hey, are you okay? Nezuko asked from a considerable distance. Obviously I'm not okay. I had to go through hellish training, I almost didn't make it past the final selection. But I'm going to die at the hands of demons. That's why you should marry me. That way I won't die alone. Please save me. Zenitsu began to sob in a strange way. Nezuko didn't know exactly what to do. Running away and leaving him seemed like a good option. I won't marry you. Not in a million years, that's for sure. But come with me, I'll take you to a hunter's rest house, leave you there, and you'll cease to be my problem. Now I know that if I see you again, what I have to do is keep running. Nezuko started walking. A little while later we see the two walking along the path. Zenitsu was eating a rice bowl given by Nezuko, which had the crow and the sparrow on its head. I really don't understand what you're trying to achieve with all this marriage stuff, but please don't bother the sparrow anymore, Nezuko said, walking away. Causing trouble for the sparrow? Why do you say that? Zenitsu asked, stopping his eating. Zenitsu always acts like this and never wants to go to work. He chases after every woman he sees and snores really loudly. It's one problem after another, that's what he says. Nezuko was translating what the sparrow was saying in her head. Is she talking about me right now? Can you speak the language of birds? He shouted, bewildered, looking at Nezuko. Call. Nezuko, Zenitsu, start running. You two must go to the next location. Said the crow on Nezuko's head. Ah. The crow spoke. Zenitsu fell backward in fright. Great. The house where I was going to drop you off is in the opposite direction. Oh well, let's go. I'll drop you off at the house after the mission. Nezuko started running, hearing Zenitsu asking her to slow down. In a house in the middle of a mountain. What a lovely house to be abandoned, Nezuko said, looking at the old house in the middle of the forest. The birds had led them to this secluded place. I sensed the presence of 2-3 demons. Nezuko had her eyes closed, but then opened them, looking at the house. Feel? I don't feel anything. But do you hear a sound coming from over there? Looks like we're going to have to work together, Zenitsu said, trembling slightly. Sound. Turning her head, Nezuko saw 2 children among the bushes, hugging each other and trembling with fear. What's wrong with them? Children, Zenitsu said nervously. What are you doing here? She asked worriedly, but the 2 children got scared when she approached. Look, a sparrow on my head. Nezuko pointed to the sparrow that started hopping on her head. The children apparently calmed down a little. What happened? Is that your house? Nezuko asked, crouching down to the children's level. No, it's not the house, the monster, the boy said, obviously frightened and crying a little. We were traveling at night and it took our brother. It ignored the two of us. It only took our brother. Did the monster enter the house? Nezuko asked. Yes, said the little girl, hugging her brother as tears streamed down her cheeks. You two have followed him this far. You're very brave. Stay here, I'll go get your brother Zenitsu, walk. Nezuko stood up and drew her sword. Nezuko-chan, what's that sound? It feels really unnerving. Is it a drum? Zenitsu asked, looking at the house. Suddenly, a boy was thrown out of one of the second-floor windows and fell hard to the ground. Don't look. Nezuko ran to the boy and put him on her lap. Are you okay? Finally I managed to get out. The boy was almost covered in blood, his wounds were deep, and his breathing was ragged. Finally I managed to get out. Am I going to die? Am I going to die? Just as Nezuko thought, the boy died in her arms, but she couldn't do anything at all. Then a roar was heard inside the house. It was obvious, a demon was hiding in there and it wasn't happy. That's not our brother wears yellow clothes, said the boy, hugging his little sister. At least he's no longer suffering, Nezuko said, laying the body on the ground. She would bury it later. Zenitsu. Come on. He was trembling and crying without moving from his place, she could only sigh. Ugh, fine, stay here. Kids, don't move, but if we don't come back, run to a village. Nezuko, annoyed, started walking towards the house. No, don't leave me. Don't look at me with that furious look. I'll come. Zenitsu ran to catch up with Nezuko. If they attack you, don't think I'm going to protect you. You have a sword, use it. Nezuko went inside the house. The two went inside the house. It was dirty. Nezuko was on high alert, listening for any demons, while Zenitsu wept silently behind her. Nezuko-chan, you're going to protect me, right? Right. You're definitely going to protect me, right? Zenitsu cried. Zenitsu, the named boy, could only see Nezuko's back, then he literally hung from his shirt as Nezuko was lifting him up. Stop crying, damn it. How are you a demon slayer? I don't understand. You were just scaring children. You should have stayed outside. I'm already dead. 99% dead. Zenitsu shouted, crying and kicking his legs. Listen to me for once, Zenitsu. Nezuko shook him back and forth, but stopped when she saw the children running towards them. Children, you can't come here. We heard banging inside the house and we got scared. We were worried because we thought they had already been killed, the boy explained through tears. It doesn't matter. Even if that's the case, they shouldn't be here, Nezuko said, stopping them from going any further. Zenitsu, take them. Nezuko couldn't finish speaking because the room literally spun around. She found herself with a girl in an unfamiliar room. The entire room had changed and the girl began to cry. Calm down. I'll protect you. I'm sorry for separating you from your brother, but he'll be alright with Zenitsu. I hope. She wiped the tears from the girl's face and she calmed down a little. But then footsteps began to be heard. A large demon appeared in a hallway with what looked like drums attached to its body and it didn't seem happy. Nezuko covered the girl's mouth to prevent her from screaming. With her other hand, she drew her sword and looked seriously at her target. I'm Kamado Nezuko, Tsuchino rank, demon slayer. I'm going to kill you. Nezuko said, pushing the girl aside and leaping toward the demon. However, before Nezuko could cut off its head, it struck one of its drums and the room spun, making it seem as if Nezuko and the girl were standing against a wall. The whole house is demon territory. I just entered the place where it can best defend itself. Damn it, I knew I should have come alone. While Nezuko was thinking, she heard something. It was as if something broke. To Nezuko's surprise, someone with an apparently human body and a boar's head burst through the wall. Pig attack. Pig attack. Came the voice of the person with the boar's head, who ran across the room and, breaking through another wall, disappeared. But never mind, child, let's go. Nezuko took the child in her arms and they fled through one of the holes made by whatever that boar-headed thing was. First they had to get out of there, find Zenitsu, get the children to safety, and then Nezuko could go in and kill the demons. On her way through the corridors, she saw a child in the middle of a room clinging to a drum. Big brother Kiyoshi. The girl shouted when she saw the boy. He was about to play the drum but stopped. Haruko. She raised her arms and hugged her younger sister, who had hurriedly climbed down from Nezuko's arms. She is she, the boy said, looking at Nezuko. I'm Kamado Nezuko, a demon slayer. I'm going to help you get out of here alive, she said. Let me see your wounds. Look, I have some medicine my father gave me. It's very good. Nezuko healed the boy's wounds, which calmed the two children down a little. Now then, can you tell me what happened? Nezuko asked with a reassuring smile. I was attacked by that monster. It wanted to eat me, but then other monsters came out and started fighting over who would eat me, the boy recounted, trembling. Then one of the monsters yanked a drum out of the drum monster's grasp. The impact changed the room, and I was left with the drum. I've been using it ever since. I see this is a powerful demon, it must be a lower moon. I need its blood for Tomeo-san. Nezuko thought, I'm going outside this room, don't worry, I'll finish off the monsters, and in less time than you think you'll be back home. But the boy tried to speak. The moment I leave the room, start drumming. At the slightest sound or movement, don't hesitate to switch rooms. I promise I'll come back and get you out of here, but first I have to finish off the demons, Nezuko said seriously. Just hold on a little longer, okay? The two children nodded. Although they were afraid, they had to fight. Nezuko smiled at their courage. You two are very brave. I'm leaving, I'll be back. Nezuko stood up and gripped the hilt of her sword. Behind her, the drum demon was hiding. Nezuko leaped out of the room. Beat the drum. The children changed rooms, and then Nezuko and the demon stood face to face in the hallway. A bunch of insects, I really hate them, said the demon. Nezuko lunged to attack him, but the demon began to beat his drums, changing the directions of the room. Nezuko was hitting the walls, ceiling, and floor of the room as it spun at high speed. Stop. Nezuko plunged her sword into the wall of the room and jammed it in. Now she was pinned to the wall as the room continued to spin. Nezuko felt two ribs crack from a bad fall. She groaned and frowned at the thought. I won't be defeated so easily. I'm a demon slayer, and I'll defeat anyone who stands in my way. Nezuko used her legs to propel herself forward, running along the walls, ceiling, and floor while the room was still spinning. She gripped her sword tightly and attacked when she saw her opportunity. Water breathing, 9th form. Chaos. Water splash. Nezuko attacked, making the movements as she continued to spin the room. She managed to get close enough to the demon, cutting off its head in one swift motion. Nezuko did a somersault in the air and landed on one knee, watching as the demon's body fell to the ground. Answer me, the demon spoke as he crumbled away. Is my demon blood art really strong? It's strong, however, killing humans is unforgivable. Now die, Nezuko said with a serious face. She stood up with some pain, took out a special needle that Tomeo had given her, and threw it into the demon's body before it turned to dust, thus obtaining a sample of its blood. The cat appeared, Nezuko gave it the blood sample, and as quickly as it had appeared, the cat disappeared. Nezuko set out to find her brother so they could leave the house once and for all. Eyes. Nezuko opened a door where she thought the children were, but they started throwing things at her, scared. Why are you throwing things at me? Nezuko, the drum disappeared and we didn't know what to do, so we panicked, the boy explained. It doesn't matter, let's go. We have to leave. Nezuko picked up the boy so he wouldn't have to walk, took the girl by the hand, and they started walking out of the house. They walked through the corridors of the abandoned house. As they were about to leave, they saw the one with the boar's head pointing one of his swords at Zenitsu, who was curled up on the floor. Draw your sword and fight, you weakling coward, said the boar-headed one. Tired, she watched as the blonde-haired boy lay injured. Great, what a mess. Nezuko glanced at the children and returned her gaze to the scene. Lightning. Traveling to Nadaguma Mountain. And there was Nezuko, watching as someone with a boar's head threatened the wounded Zenitsu with a sword. For reasons like this, I do my missions alone, she said to herself. He set the child he was carrying on his back down on the ground and charged towards the one with the boar's head. When he was close, he jumped and gave him a good kick right in the face, sending him flying into some bushes. Aren't you a member of the Demon Slayer Corps? Nezuko demanded angrily. Zenitsu was on the ground, terrified by the girl's speed. Didn't you know that swordsmen can't attack each other? That's breaking the taboo. Cough, cough, haha. The boar-headed one laughed and then looked at her. So that's what it's about. I'm sorry, then we'll have a bare-knuckle fight. I don't think you understood anything I said, Nezuko said. Swordsmen can't fight each other, and these problems can't be solved with fists either. Nezuko had to dodge a kick aimed at her face. The boar-headed creature began attacking her. His attacks were always designed to put her at a disadvantage, he truly behaved like an animal. Nezuko easily avoided all the blows, but what surprised her was his strange flexibility. I'm awesome, right? I'm awesome, right? The boar-headed one repeated. Then he twisted his body into an extravagant pose. I can even handle this position. Don't do that, it's bad for your body, the huntress retorted, but the boar-headed boy only attacked her again. Nezuko became quite angry, so she decided to strike him squarely between the eyes. To Nezuko's surprise, the boar's head fell to the ground. It turned out to be a mask. But what shocked everyone present was the boy's face. Woman. Huh. Her face, Zenitsu shouted, agitated. What do you mean? Do you have a problem with my face? The boar-headed one turned out to have a distinctly feminine face. It was obvious he wasn't a man. His bare chest made it easy to deduce that he was legitimately male, but it was still a little confusing. With Tanjiro. The demon boy was in his room, deep in thought. Yesterday, his father had invited him out with his fake family, which had made him happy for a while. He'd even managed to eat them, but there was something strange about the demon slayer he'd seen. Tanjiro knew he'd never actually met her, but it was as if he'd been close to her before. He felt something strange inside him, as if they were connected in some odd way. However, he knew that was impossible. They weren't related at all. If I see her again, no, that's impossible. I'm just being silly, Tanjiro said, dismissing the thought. If he happened to see the huntress again, he probably wouldn't survive. A few knocks startled him from his thoughts. The prince went to open the door and found Nakam standing there. Tanjiro-sama, Muzan-sama is calling you, said the demon sitting on the ground with her biwa. Thank you Nakam-chan, I'll go right away, she smiled at him, then made a door appear that led to Muzan's office, then she turned on her axis and disappeared. Tanjiro entered and found his father reading as usual. He approached him and waited for him to look up from his book. When he did, he looked at Tanjiro with a serious expression. Were you calling me dad? Tanjiro asked kindly. Yes, Tanjiro, I'd like you to go visit Lower Moon 5. He put his book on a bookshelf and picked up a different one. Rui? Yes, I've heard he's been capturing several swordsmen these days. I want you to go and deliver this to him. Muzan took a small vial of his blood from his pocket. A gift for his good work. And what's with him being so generous? He asked, taking the bottle. Shut up and don't ask questions. Just go, take as long as you need. I don't have any more missions for you for a while, Muzan said listlessly, reading, but then he remembered the image of that swordswoman wearing a haori with light blue and pink stripes. Tanjiro, if you see the huntress we saw in Asakusa, kill her. She has the potential to become a nuisance to us in the future. Sure, Dad, see you later. Tanjiro left his father's room. She went to her room and changed. She decided to change because she hadn't changed her kimono in quite some time. She dressed in another one, black with red sleeves, a red belt, and a white haori with red rose details at the ends. He kept his father's blood and walked to Mount Nadagumo. It would take him a few hours to run. Since he had nothing else to do, he would take his time to go quickly, finish the mission, and do whatever he wanted for a while. But Nezuko. Nezuko, with Zenitsu's help and the children's, buried the bodies they had found inside the house, as well as the boy who had jumped out the window. Just as they were finishing, the boy with a girlish face stood up, shouting and complaining, demanding a rematch from Nezuko. After a while, she realized the boy's name was Inosu Kashibira. She didn't care much about it, but it was valuable information. It would come in handy someday. When they left the forest, they said goodbye to the children. Nezuko carried Zenitsu, who was injured. The huntress's crow guided them to a place where they could rest, while Inosuke declared that he had grown up on a mountain and was the king of the mountain. A while later, they arrived at a house with a glazier carved into the door. A kind old woman came out and a doctor she had summoned treated their wounds. Afterward, the old woman gave them food and a bed. Nezuko had only one broken rib, Zenitsu had 2, and Inosuke had 4, in addition to the bruise Nezuko had kicked. For a few days, Inosuke complained constantly. Nezuko apologized to Inosuke for hitting him, but he didn't apologize to Zenitsu for breaking 2 of his ribs. Inosuke kept trying to provoke Nezuko into fighting, but she always refused. Zenitsu, on the other hand, also tried to convince Nezuko to marry him, but she obviously refused every time he asked. Tired of not being able to rest and of wandering around in that bed, she decided to sneak away and leave those 2 there. Her raven, completely understanding her, gave her a mission, and the huntress set to work. Upon completing this mission, she could finally visit her father. When he arrived at the entrance to the forest, he encountered a group of swordsmen at the entrance. What are you doing here? Nezuko asked when she saw them. There are supposedly several demons in this forest, which is why they sent us here too, a girl replied. It was a group of at least 10 swordsmen. May I ask what rank you are? Nezuko asked them. Between Tsuchino and Kano, why? A boy replied. Nothing, are you going to come in or will you keep talking? She started walking deeper into the forest on her own. She heard the other hunters walking behind her and began to sharpen her sense of hearing. This was a forest. There was no better habitat for demons than forests, excellent for cornering humans. Nezuko was surprised because she heard thousands of tiny feet. It was like an army of something she couldn't yet identify. She didn't have much time to think before she suddenly had to duck. A sword nearly severed her head. What the hell were they doing? Nezuko watched as the swordsmen began to fight amongst themselves. Some were already dead. What the hell? Nezuko dodged another sword, kicked the guy, and ran to climb a tree. There was something strange about it. The hunter's movements were awful. Ugh, disgusting. He squashed a spider that was crawling up his arm. Spiders. He saw the swordsman again and the massacre they were causing, then he understood. What a cheap trick. Nezuko leaped onto the swordsman and slashed her sword over them, cutting the nearly invisible threads. If so many deaths occurred in this forest, they should have brought in a pillar. Sometimes you have to use your head. Are the 5 of you alright? She asked, addressing a small group of surviving demon slayers. Of 10, only 5 remained, and they seemed to be struggling to breathe. What happened? Did I kill him? The only girl in the group was having a panic attack. First time you've killed a human. You'll get over it. Nezuko sheathed her sword. I don't think you can continue fighting. Go and fetch a pillar. And what will you do? Asked a swordsman who could barely stand up. I'll walk that way. I heard there's a lower moon around here, Nezuko said, looking into the forest. The swordsman agreed to leave. They were already too traumatized by breaking the taboo. Nezuko, on the other hand, decided to venture a little deeper. Who knows, maybe she can steal blood from that lower moon if she finds it. Sometimes you want to find a demon and you stumble upon a 2-meter tall one with a spider's face. Life throws you curveballs. Stay away from my family. The spider-faced demon slammed his fist on the ground, forcing Nezuko back away. I don't have time for you. Could we finish this quickly, please? Nezuko asked. She really wanted to see her father. It had been almost 3 months since she'd last seen him. Nezuko ran, jumped, and kicked the demon's head. It collapsed backward, its weight causing it to lose its balance. Nezuko landed on her chest, then simply slashed her sword across the demon's head. She thought she could leave, but as a last act of defiance, the demon struck Nezuko from the side, sending her flying a considerable distance. You son of a bitch. She screamed. Her body tumbled through the air, breaking branches of several trees, until she finally crashed into a trunk, collapsing to the ground amidst a few leaves, completely sore and stiff. Ayahooch. She decided to stay there for a few minutes to observe the starry sky. Unfortunately, that couldn't last forever. Nezuko got up with a terrible pain. She looked around. Now she was truly lost in the forest. She decided to simply start walking, to see where fate would lead her. Fight against Lower Moon 5 and the appearance of Tanjiro. But Tanjiro. I've finally arrived. The prince had reached the imposing forest where the Lower Moon 5 and her family lived. The first thing he saw upon entering was dead bodies, which made him laugh. He wasn't hungry, so he didn't eat anything. He enjoyed seeing the work of art Rui had created in the forest. His father was right. Perhaps he did deserve the bloodshed. Upon continuing, he found a house on a tree and human heads transformed into spiders, as well as some swordsmen hanging. How interesting. Tanjiro looked into the distance at a boy with a boar's head tied up and hanging from a tree branch. It seems a lot has happened in this forest recently. Then he recognized the scent of a certain swordswoman. He followed the scent until he came to another very interesting scene. The swordswoman in the pink and light blue Haori was fighting Rui. Tanjiro climbed a tree and sat on a branch to watch the spectacle from afar. Let's see what you're up to, little huntress, Tanjiro smiled. But Nezuko. To tell the truth, he wasn't surprised to find a couple of demons. One looked like a child and the other like a girl holding his face. What are you looking at? This isn't a show, the neutral demon boy told him. What are you supposed to be doing? Isn't she something like your ally? Nezuko asked, bewildered by the situation. Normally, when she fought with demons, they didn't kill each other, at least not in front of a demon slayer. Ally? I don't like such a superficial thought. We're family, bound by strong ties, the demon replied, several threads swiping between his fingers. Besides, this is between me and Nissan. If you interfere unnecessarily, I'll cut you into cubes. I could swear you two have no blood ties. From afar, I sense your ties are made of fear and hatred. This isn't a family. It's just a child's game, a child who believes this bond is real. This is all a farce. Nezuko braced her body and mind for the coming battle, but a swordsman emerged from the trees. Oh, just in time. There are demons here, said the swordsman, smiling slyly. If they're just these little demons, even I can defeat them. I'll get a promotion and a ton of money. Ugh, right now. A hunter who thinks he's a pillar, Nezuko whispered lazily. She grew serious, and before the boy could take a single step, she leaped high above the demons' heads. To the boy, Nezuko merely flicked her sword through the air before landing beside him, but in reality, she had severed the trap the demon child had set in record time to kill the swordsman. Get out of here if you don't want to end up dead, she said. Hey, huntress, what did you say about our family? The demon child's head turned, glaring angrily at Nezuko. I'll say it again and again, your ties are completely fake, she replied confidently, frowning. I won't kill you right away. I'm going to dismember you until your body is unrecognizable. The furious demon said. Go away, Nezuko said sternly to the swordsman. He swallowed hard, turned around, and ran away. At that moment, he was more afraid of Nezuko than of demons. She sighed before turning to face the demon child. I haven't trained for years to tell a demon that his so-called family is a complete sham, so I'll save myself the trouble and cut off your head right now. Nezuko began jumping between the threads as she cut them. She felt how they were stronger, but nothing that a little technique couldn't cut. Ugh. Stop moving. The demon was moving the strings, trying to cut Nezuko, but she kept jumping, dodging, and using her legs to escape, while her arms used her sword to cut the strings that could harm her. At one point, he reached the demon girl, who was still kneeling before her brother, watching everything. Using the horizontal movement he had invented, he decapitated the demon with a clean cut. She fell to the ground and began to turn to ash. You killed my baby. The demon child raged, his fists clenched until they bled. You're despicable. Are those really going to be your last words? He ran to attack the last demon he had left to kill. I'll kill you, you damn thing. The demon manipulated his strings, trying to cut Nezuko in half. She had slight cuts, but they weren't serious. She ran toward the demon, determined to cut off its head. She leaped and somersaulted, crossing the tangled web set for her death, severing the threads that threatened to cut her. Her gaze fixed on the demon's neck, she kicked the ground to propel herself forward, gathering momentum and preparing her sword. Rest in peace. Nezuko shouted, slashing his head from side to side. Her eyes widened as she realized the maneuver the demon had made at the last microsecond, because he was in trouble. Did you think you could kill me that easily? You pathetic fool, were you happy in your delusions? I cut off my own head to avoid your sword. I haven't felt this angry in a long time, the demon said hatefully, his head hanging from threads while his body stood upright. Ugh. Nezuko calmed her breathing, closed her eyes for a minute to clear her head, then opened them with determination to finally end the fight. She ran and kicked the demon's body against a tree, spun around to sever the threads holding its head. As it fell, Nezuko caught it. Can we finish this now? I really want to visit my father. You're a damned wretch. The demon shouted, looking at the sword that was in front of his face. Nezuko removed the hair that covered one of the demon's eyes, so you're a lower moon, if I kill you and tell Oyakata-sama I could become a pillar, but I still have a long way to go to become a pillar, I prefer to do this. Nezuko threw her sword towards the demon's body as it tried to reach her from behind, embedded the sword in its chest, pulled it out, only to pierce both hands with the sword and plunge it back into its chest so that the body would not give her any more trouble. You, the demon said with rage and helplessness. Shut up, I'll wait for a pillar or someone to come and kill you, Nezuko said, looking at the demon's head in her hands. Or I could tie you to a tree and let the sun kill you. It would be faster, although it's still a few minutes until dawn. Haha, what do you think if I kill him? A voice was heard somewhere among the trees. Unexpectedly the demon's head disappeared from Nezuko's hands. She was scared, she turned all around until she found him a few meters behind her. The demon he had seen next to Muzan was standing there, holding with one hand the head of the demon who was babbling in fear. Tanjiro-sama. The demon child screamed in terror. Nezuko at the meeting of the pillars. Tanjiro-sama. Shouted the demon, impressed to see the son of the demon king in front of him. Rui, I'm disappointed. My father sent me here to give you some of his blood, and I barely arrived to find you under the sword of a huntress, he said, looking at the trembling head he held in his hands. You should have committed suicide before reaching such a pathetic situation. Tanjiro-sama, please. This was just a small slip-up. Every swordsman who reaches this mountain dies. There are surely none left. My family is surely Tanjiro interrupted Rui, digging his nails into his skull. Ah. Stop lying, I've already seen the mountain. Kakishus, swordsman, and 2 pillars are already here. Of your idiotic family, only you remain, he smiled, seeing the fear reflected in the demon. My father will be furious with you, so let me help you give yourself a quicker and slightly less painful death. No. No. Wait, Tanjiro crushed Rui's head, which began to turn to ash. The head and body disappeared in seconds. Now there are no more troubles, said the prince, looking at the swordswoman who had retrieved her blade and was now in an attack stance. Except for you. You know, my father hates you. He even sent demons to kill you specifically, and since you're still alive, he hates you even more. Can you imagine how grateful he'll be to me if I return with your head in my hand? Try it, Nezuko said, preparing herself and raising her ready sword. Haha, foolish human, Tanjiro laughed before launching himself at her. Tanjiro unsheathed his claws, and Nezuko drew her katana, taking a running start. Nezuko's blade struck Tanjiro's arm, but it didn't cut him. It barely grazed him. Tanjiro slashed at the blade and lunged with his claws at Nezuko. She dodged them with difficulty, but not without receiving a slight cut on her cheek. You're fast, Tanjiro jumped back. I've trained a lot, Nezuko said, raising her sword again. This time it was Nezuko who lunged at Tanjiro. She dodged the demon's claws, slid underneath him, slashing his abdomen. She took advantage of being behind him to cut off his head, but he held Nezuko's sword with 2 fingers just centimeters from his neck. "You're fast but not fast enough." Tanjiro snatched the sword from Nezuko's hands, throwing it and embedding it in a tree. Tanjiro ducked and slid his leg across the ground, knocking Nezuko down. As she fell, he grabbed her wrist and pressed his foot down onto her chest, preventing her from moving. She began to feel her ribs being crushed by the opposing force exerted on her chest. "Ahrg. Aya," came Nezuko's screams, who soon began spitting blood. "Ahaha, poor weak human, you should be grateful. Your death will be caused by the Prince of Demons." Tanjiro lowered his hand, he was going to rip Nezuko's head off her body, but he didn't even touch her. "Leave her alone." Suddenly Tanjiro's hand was cut off and he was forcefully pushed back. Gyu had appeared. "You idiot humans. Don't you understand that fighting is pointless?" Tanjiro regenerated his hand and stood up intending to attack the pillar, but another one appeared, or rather, another one. I imagined him as a child," said the insect pillar, Shinobu. "Even so, no matter what he looks like, he must die." "Two pillars? How awkward. I'd better say goodbye." Tanjiro glanced one last time at the girl lying on the ground before running off. Shinobu began chasing the demon, while Gyu grabbed Nezuko and quickly took her to the Kakushi. Later, when Nezuko awoke, she found herself at the butterfly estate. "Nezuko, it's been a while since I've seen you around here." "Ah, hi owie." Nezuko sat down and felt her ribs crack. "Ouch, what happened?" "Well, you got into a fistfight with a demon and practically lost. Tomioka-kun saved you." Aoi was bustling around tidying things up. "Although it wasn't just any demon, the one you fought is Kibutsuji's son." "Kibutsuji's son? Ah, that's why he called himself a prince and I thought he was full of himself." Nezuko stretched her joints a little. Kawa. Message for Kamado Nezuko. Oyakata-sama requests your presence at headquarters. Arrive without fail. Kawa. The crow croaked at the window. "Shhh. There are people sleeping here, silly bird." Aoi closed the window. "What bad luck with me," Nezuko complained, getting up and putting on her uniform. "I don't like meetings." Nezuko, now changed, headed towards Oyakata-sama's house. She entered slowly, peeking in to see all the pillars gathered there. Before, she had only seen 1 or 2 pillars, but now they were all there. Perhaps it wasn't specifically for her. Gyu had told her that they held what was called the Pillars meeting every 6 months, and it just so happened to be happening that day. How lucky she was. "Nezuko, come in," Gyu's voice called from inside. Alert and nervous, Nezuko slowly entered the room, becoming the center of attention for the pillars. Good morning," Nezuko bowed to the pillars. Few things frightened her. Intimidating people were one of them, except for Gyu, who only made her laugh. "So you're the girl who met with the Kibutsujis," said a blonde man with red tips in his hair. Ringoku, the flame pillar. "You're an extravagantly beautiful girl. Why are you a hunter?" "Look at you, you're all bruised," said Tenjin, the sound pillar. Beside him was Mitsuri, the love pillar. "The eyes of death are already upon you, what an unfortunate girl," Jayame, the rock pillar, said, weeping and with his hands joined in a prayer position. "Could you tell me?" Kamado Shinobu approached Nezuko from behind, making her nervous. "Why did you try to face such a powerful demon alone?" Nezuko was dying of fear. She simply wanted to fight and kill demons. Was that so wrong? "So you're the girl everyone's talking about," Shinazagawa said, smiling. The wind pillar's smile terrified Nezuko. She felt like an ant next to a pack of dogs. "Tell me, what are the Kibutsuji like?" "Well, they're quite agile," he interrupted, not letting Nezuko finish. "Don't say another word, I want to be surprised myself when I kill them." Tsunemi looked down at Nezuko, who was trying to stand tall. Everything was interrupted when 2 white-haired girls appeared. "The owner of the mansion is visiting," said both girls. Everyone turned their gaze to the door, through which the leader of the hunters walked with his aura of serenity. "So you've come, my lovely swordsman," Nezuko said. Oyakata-sama was a wise man, even though he wasn't old. He brought peace with his words. In less than a second, the pillars, including Nezuko, were already lined up, kneeling with their heads bowed. Unfortunately for Nezuko, she found herself caught between Shinazagawa and the snake pillar, Abanai. If before she felt like an ant between those 2 menacing beings, now she felt like a flea trembling with fear. She was hurt. Someone have mercy on her. "Good morning everyone, we have very pleasant weather today," said Oyakata-sama, leaning slightly on his daughters who were guiding him along the path. "Our members have gathered for the pillar meeting that we hold every 6 months as is customary. We are honored by your presence, patron," Tsunemi said politely. "We pray earnestly that you will have much happiness." "Thank you, Tsunemi," Oyakata-sama said, sitting down on a mat. "Sir, allow me to say that Kamado Nezuko is present here according to your orders," said Gyu seriously but equally politely. "I'm glad to see you again, Oyakata-sama," Nezuko greeted nervously. Even she didn't know how she managed to avoid stuttering. The last time she'd seen the leader of the demon slayers was when she was 12. Now she was 14. According to Shinobu and Gyu, they found you yesterday in the middle of the forest, fighting one of the most wanted demons, Tanjiro Kibutsuji. Furthermore, we suspect a lower moon resided on Mount Nadagumo. First, we'll address the matter of the lower moon. Who eliminated it? Oyakata-sama asked. His tone didn't sound serious, but to the young demon slayer, it was anything but. I encountered the lower moon some time after venturing into the forest. When I managed to immobilize her, Tanjiro appeared and killed her, saying, "My father will be furious with you, so let me help you give you a quicker and slightly less painful death." After that, Tanjiro Kibutsuji murdered the lower moon, Nezuko said confidently. That sounds like something the Kibutsuji would do, killing demons that are no longer useful to them, Oyakata-sama mused. And what was your experience with Muzan Kibutsuji like? At that time, I was in Asakusa Prefecture. Amidst a hustle and bustle of people, I spotted 2 demons. I was surprised to see them socializing with humans as if they were one of them. Because of the shock, I couldn't stop the younger of the 2 from attacking a man. They took the opportunity to escape, and I had to kill the man, since he had already transformed into a demon. After that, 2 more demons came to attack me. As far as I know, they were sent by Muzan to kill me, Nezuko finished recounting. The pillars and Oyakata-sama listened intently to her story. Interesting. I'm glad to hear you've become strong enough to face such powerful demons, Nezuko. As far as I know, you only need 1 more rank to begin training to become the next water pillar. I expect your performance to be outstanding. You're destined for greatness. It wasn't pure luck that you invented the 12th water-breathing form. Oyakata-sama smiled cheerfully, calming Nezuko's heart. Meanwhile, the other pillars, except for Gyu, peeked out to observe her, surprised. They knew someone had invented a new water-breathing form, but they didn't know exactly who it was. "Thank you very much, Oyakata-sama," Nezuko said gratefully and quite happy that the leader of the hunters had so much faith in her. Their courage was evident in your encounter with Muzan and his son. As you can see, Kibutsuji came after Nezuko, and she escaped her pursuers. The reason for this may simply be to tie up some loose ends, but for the first time, I don't want to let go of the shadow Kibutsuji has cast upon us, Oyakata-sama spoke. Be mindful of your movements, so we can achieve victory more quickly. If Kibutsuji is looking for the girl, we can use her as bait to lure him, Abanai said, scaring Nezuko that they were seriously thinking of using her as bait. None of that will happen, stop scaring Nezuko, Tomioka interrupted, followed by Oyakata-sama's low laughter. It's time to end the discussion about Nezuko. You can return now. It's time to begin the pillar meeting, Oyakata-sama informed with a slight smile. Of course. I wish and pray for your health, Oyakata-sama. Nezuko stood and bowed to the leader of the Demon Slayer Corps, took 3 steps forward, and turned to face the pillars. I also bid you farewell. I pray for your safety. Goodbye, and I apologize for any inconvenience. Nezuko hurried out of Oyakata-sama's estate, sighing when she was some distance away. It had been a lot of emotions for only 10 minutes of meeting, but at least her confrontation with Tanjiro would help the pillars prepare for future occasions. Well, if we put aside the meeting with the Kibutsuges, I suppose I can finally go see Dad, Nezuko said to herself, starting to walk to the butterfly estate to collect her things and then go visit her father, Urakadaki. Let's take a look at Tanjiro's life. With Tanjiro. He had escaped the mountain, losing that pillar of strength in the forest. If he had wanted, he could have killed her. She was the only one pursuing him. But the sun was already rising, and he wouldn't risk hiding in that forest now teeming with swordsmen. He preferred to escape, even if it sounded cowardly. Later, he would take care of killing that huntress he was facing. Although first I have to tell Dad that Riri died, or rather, that I killed him because he was incompetent. Tanjiro looked at the small bottle containing his father's blood. Without hesitation, he drank from it, feeling the power course through his veins. Haha, though, before going to Dad, a little snack wouldn't be bad. Tanjiro ran quickly to a small nearby village before sunrise. He entered a temple that was being used as a shelter for the villagers, whose homes had been flooded by an overflowing river. The temple would serve as their home until the water receded, but they hadn't counted on Tanjiro's presence and his insatiable hunger that day. Delicious, delicious, delicious. There were a couple of old people there, their meat is bad, but their blood is delicious, Tanjiro said, resting on top of all the blankets in the temple. Scattered on the floor were the remains of the people who had previously lived there, the walls stained with blood and somewhat broken, since the humans had tried unsuccessfully to escape. The best breakfast of the week. Tanjiro looked out the window. It was daytime. He had closed all the light sources as he rested peacefully beneath that floor of the dead. While waiting for nightfall, he thought about the huntress. She was strong, he had to admit. When he saw her again, a second rematch would be fun before he killed her. Afterward, perhaps he'd give her to Dauma. He didn't really care what he did with the body. To the demon, humans were vengeful, arrogant, and capricious. They blamed demons for killing humans when they did the exact same thing to animals. It was the cycle of life. Besides, if demons didn't kill them, they would kill each other, so there was no problem feeding on the occasional human. Tanjiro was trying to figure out how to find the demon slayer again and kill her, but surely the Kikuchi had taken her, and no demon knew where slayers went to recover from battles if they survived. He would have to find her again some other time. Oh, it's already night, she realized, seeing the clear night illuminated by the moon. She stood up, dusted herself off, and decided to call Nakam so they could get home quickly. Hey, Nakam-chan, can you take me to Dad's? The door appeared in front of Tanjiro, opening by itself to reveal his father's office. He was writing things in his notebook. Thank you, Nakam-chan, Tanjiro said, entering his father's office with a smile. However, there was a slight change in his appearance. Hello, Dad, can I ask why? You can't ask, Muzan said, though at first glance it didn't seem to be Muzan. It was a black-haired woman in a black kimono. Did you do what I asked? Sure, but there was a problem. Tanjiro let go of the fact that his father looked like a woman. It turned out that when I arrived at Mount Netagumo, Rui was about to be killed by a demon slayer who wasn't even a pillar. What? Muzan's veins bulged as the demon king or queen angrily clutched his notebook. Relax, I killed him myself before the huntress could, then I fought her. But before I could finish her off, I had to leave because 2 pillars arrived and the sun was starting to rise. No way I was staying in that forest full of swordsmen, Tanjiro explained. I will never again reward some good for nothing without first convincing myself that they deserve my power. Muzan set his notebook aside, thinking for a few seconds, while his son glanced over his research. Tell me, son, what have you been doing lately? You seem rather pensive. Oh, nothing, I just found it amusing how easily the hunters can defeat the lower moons. It's starting to get a bit tedious learning so many names of the lower moons. If they were a little more powerful, perhaps we wouldn't be proclaiming lower moons every month. The prince had encountered at least 200 lower moons in his short life. I must admit you're right about this. The lower moons are ridiculously weak, I'll do something about it. Muzan walked away, disappearing between doors. Haha, it's exciting to kill weak demons, Tanjiro said calmly, following the path his father had taken seconds ago. Tanjiro arrived at a room with stairs, doors, and windows all around. Nakam was sitting on a surface with her biwa, summoning the remaining lower moons, who appeared in different locations. Lower moons 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6 were present, confused. Suddenly, the 5 demons stood before Muzan, with Nakam behind him. Lower your heads and bow down, prostrate yourselves. Muzan commanded, still annoyed. The 5 demons knelt down and lowered their heads while trembling as they realized that this woman was the king of the demons. We're very sorry, their figure and appearance are very different, said a white-haired demon. Tanjiro found it amusing to see how the novice demons panicked when they discovered his father could shapeshift. In reality, Muzan taught Tanjiro how to change form. In truth, Tanjiro is still just a baby. Who told you that you could speak? Muzan asked, his veins bulging from afar, Tanjiro could see. Don't say anything about your pathetic will. You can only answer my questions. Ha ha ha. Tanjiro laughed, watching the show from afar. He had had 2 shows, 2 days in a row, and without paying. Rui was killed. He was the lower moon 5. I only have one question, Muzan reported. Why are the lower moon demons so damn weak? Just because they claim to be part of the 12 demon moons doesn't mean it's over. It's only the beginning. The beginning of eating more people, the beginning of becoming stronger and stronger, and of being much more useful to me. Tanjiro at that moment wanted to add something to the conversation, so he suddenly appeared next to his father with a big smile, looking at the lower moons. For over 100 years, the members of the upper moon have never changed. Those who have formed the pillars of the Demon Slayer Corps are always demons from the upper moon, Tanjiro said with a smile. But what about those from the lower moon? How many times have they been replaced? And you just say that? Oh, then tell me. Muzan sounded furious. What's wrong with my son's reasoning? Tell me. Suddenly, the demon who had overthought was being lifted up by Muzan using his demon blood technique. The novices also didn't know that Muzan could read their minds. Please. Please, Kibutsuji-sama, have mercy. I'm so sorry. I'm sore. The demon couldn't continue speaking. In seconds, he had been crushed and devoured by Tanjiro's father, his remains falling in front of the other demons. So you fear the demon hunters more than me? Muzan asked curiously. The white-haired demon tensed on the ground. So you always intend to flee if you encounter a demon hunter pillar? No, I don't think that. I would give my life for you. Shouted the demon, making nothing but excuses. Words. Tanjiro crossed his arms, still smiling. So you're denying what I'm saying? Muzan asked, his gaze killing the demon girl. She began to sweat. Suddenly, the girl was covered in blood, a large stain of her splattered brain mattering on the ground. "Nakam-chan, could you clean that up please?" Tanjiro asked the demon. Nakam touched her biwa, changing the floor. The demon took advantage of the change in floor to try to escape by leaping between the stairs in the room to leave this dimension, but his head appeared in Muzan's hands. Now only 2 demons remained. "Now I imagine it would be better for the 12 demon moons if only the upper moons existed. I'm dismantling the lower moons," Muzan warned expressionlessly. "Do you have any final words I've forgotten to mention?" "I'll definitely be useful." One of the 2 demons spoke. "How long have you been around? How could you be of any use?" Tanjiro asked. "How much power do you wield in your current state?" "Blood. If you can give me a little more of your blood, I will definitely prove that I can adapt to your blood. I will become the strongest demon of them all and fight." The demon stopped speaking as Muzan slammed the other demon's head against the ground, completely crushing it. "Why should I give you my blood at your command?" Muzan asked, annoyed by his audacity. "You're a damn disgrace. Know your place." "You're wrong. You're wrong." Tanjiro didn't let the demon finish. "Shut up already if you know what's good for you," Tanjiro mocked. "It makes no difference, I don't make mistakes. I have every right to decide, everything I say is absolute, you have no right to contradict me," Muzan said. "Everything I say is correct, you deserve to die." The demon simply disappeared without a trace. Only a black-haired demon remained kneeling. It was the lower moon one, the last lower moon. "Do you have any final words I forgot to say?" Muzan asked again, but this time to that demon. "Let me see. Oh right now I feel like I'm dreaming. You're personally going to end me." It was fun hearing the other demons' dying sounds. "It was a blessing," Lower Moon 1 spoke. "I loved seeing the humans' pain and suffering. I loved it so much it was like a dream. Thank you for saving me for last." Tanjiro smiled. The stupid demon knew how to use his possible last words to his advantage. Muzan suddenly gave the demon some of his blood and the demon began to laugh and complain at the new sensation. "You have won me over, I will give you a great amount of blood," Muzan said, watching the demon try to withstand the blood of the Demon King. "Well, he probably won't be able to handle such a large amount of blood and will just die, but if he does, he'll be quite strong," Tanjiro thought aloud, looking at the demon. "Now be useful to me and kill the pillars of the demon hunters," Muzan ordered. "And if you kill the demon hunter and the light blue and pink Haori, I will share even more blood with you." Without further ado, Muzan left thanks to Nakam and his biwa, then he took the demon out of the dimension of the gates, leaving him somewhere. "Hey Nakam-chan, can you take me to my secret place?" Tanjiro asked after watching the spectacle. A door appeared in front of him and upon passing through it, he found himself in a forest. "Goodbye, Nakam-chan." Tanjiro, still chuckling at the spectacle he'd just witnessed, began his walk through the forest at night. He climbed to the top of a tree and could see it in the distance. The Demon Slayer Corps headquarters. Tanjiro had discovered it years before, thanks to the abundance of glacial flowers scattered throughout the area. When he told his father, in gratitude, gave him a generous amount of his blood and a long vacation, which he used to train with Kakishibo. From that moment on, he returned to this place at least once a month to observe everything from afar. Now the question is, how do I find her? Tanjiro asked himself, starting to come up with a plan. "Ah. That's it." Tanjiro climbed down from the tree and ran. There was a path where swordsmen always crossed to reach their destination. He was sure that the huntress would have to pass by there sooner or later, and when he found her, they could fight again, and he would finally kill her. The beginning of. But Nezuko. She had finally left the butterfly estate. At last, she could visit her father. She would have to walk slowly, as with every step she could hear her ribs cracking. Nezuko cursed that demon with all her heart. If she ever saw him again, he wouldn't survive. Even with a few broken ribs, she would fight to the bitter end. He walked for several hours, but finally reached the mountain grounds where he had grown up. He passed through a nearby town where he used to go every weekend with his brothers to buy food for the week. "Nezuko, it's so nice to see you again. Are you here to visit your father?" A lady recognized her as she passed by. "Yes, Mrs. Elric. It's also a pleasure to see you again. How are little Edward and Alphonse?" he asked, approaching the woman who was peacefully knitting outside her home, a house somewhat removed from the village. "They went off to play with Winry. All 3 of them have a lot of energy and the field is very large for them to explore while I make dinner and knit for a while," the lady replied kindly. "I'm glad you're well. I hope to see you again to say goodbye when it's time for me to leave." "See you, Mrs. Elric," Nezuko said, starting to climb the hill. "See you soon, Nezuko, and please take care," the lady said, continuing to knit. Nezuko climbed the mountain and found herself at the house where she had grown up. It was exactly the same after all these years. The log where she and Sabito would sit in the mornings basking in the sun. According to Sabito, it would make Nezuko's skin whiter and her eyes brighter. The bench by the entrance where she and Urakadaki would sit watching their brothers fight, the rug on the floor where Gyu would sit and Nezuko would brush his hair, even though he didn't want her to. The trees that Nezuko used as demons to practice her stances. So many memories were in that little cabin. Dad. I'm home. Nezuko entered the house and found her father sitting on a futon drinking tea. You're late, he said calmly. I know, but today I have a good excuse. It's on my chest and split in half, Nezuko said, setting her things aside as she spoke. Did they break your heart? No dad, my ribs, they broke my ribs. And you say it so naturally. How are you? You know, relax. I killed several demons, cuts here, cuts there. I fought the prince of demons, but he couldn't kill me. I know, I'm the first to know what happens on all your missions. Next time you run into that demon, you'd better run for your life. Look what he did to you. Sure, I'll run away, she said, crossing her fingers behind her back. And Gyu? Ah, well, the same. Cold, lifeless, angry with himself. Nezuko sat down next to her father. Someday he's going to have to get over Sabito, and if he doesn't do it on his own, I'm going to have to confront him. It's been too many years of sadness. It wasn't so strange to see him smile before, but now it seems like a foreign word to him. I hope you can reason with him. It's not healthy for hatred and resentment to consume his spirit forever. Urakadaki put down his tea and hugged Nezuko. It was a relief for him to see her alive. On the other hand, for another being who was spying on them, a very funny idea had begun to appear in his mind. With Tanjiro. The demon hummed a lullaby, lying in the branches of a tree, calmly awaiting the appearance of a huntress. Unfortunately for him, it was already daylight and he was hidden among the shadows of the trees. If the huntress appeared, he would have to follow her from a great distance, still in the shadows. Knock, knock, little bunny from the small mountain, why are your ears so long? When my mother was little, she ate the leaves of a big tree, and that's why my ears are so long, Tanjiro sang quietly. Knock, knock, little bunny from the small mountain, why are your eyes so red? When my mother was little, she ate the fruit of a red tree, and that's why my eyes are red. It was strange, so to speak, Tanjiro's only memory from his human life was that song. He had no idea who sang it to him, but it was strangely calming. You finally appear. Tanjiro saw the huntress, and just as he had thought, she was walking in the sunlight. He followed her along the long path she traveled, always in the shadows. In his ranking of fears, his father came first, then the sun, raccoons, and lastly the pillars. Tanjiro always thought that dying at the hands of the sun would be a fairly likely end for a demon. The sun wasn't even alive and could kill you. However, if he had to throw himself into the sun to help his father, he would do it without hesitation. Since becoming a demon, he had been taught several things. For example, always obey his father. Whatever he asked for to the letter had to be done. Respect his father at all times, and if he heard anyone else speaking ill of him, they had to be killed. Never question his father. He knew what he was doing. These were some of the things he learned. In addition, he trained his bloodbending to a high level, reaching the point of matching Daumas. Not yet Kakishibo, because he was on a break, but he was sure that with a little more training and a couple of humans for a snack, he would reach the point of matching even his father. What an enormous mountain. Why have I never come to this area before? Tanjiro gazed at the enormous mountain in the distance and the small village a little way away from it. He watched Nezuko disappear into the mountain forest. He was ready to approach her from behind and attack, but he was curious to see how far she would go on that lonely mountain, so he followed her. He reached an old cabin, and when she went inside, he peered through a window to see what was happening. There was an old man and her. He saw them talking, embracing. Now he understood. That old man was the hunter's father. Interesting. Wait. That man was the one who gave her father trouble years ago. He was a former pillar. Damn it, Tanjiro whispered as he ran off to hide somewhere else. If he remembered correctly, that ex-pillar had an excellent sense of smell. It was time to pray to his father that he hadn't detected him. Night fell, and nothing out of the ordinary happened. The huntress and the old man were still chatting in the house. Tanjiro would have stormed in to attack them while they were off guard, but a fun idea had popped into his head, and he really wanted to try it out, so he resigned himself to waiting. He went down the mountain to get a small snack. Once the huntress left, he would put his plan into action. MMMO, perfect. Tanjiro smiled broadly. Far from the village and far from the mountain forest, he found a house. Inside, everyone seemed to be asleep. He could smell them. A woman and 2 children. I'm not hungry for children today. Today, I'll only eat the woman. Tanjiro opened the door and entered the house as if it were his own. He reached the woman's room, opened the door, and found her asleep. In one swift motion, he scratched the woman's leg just to taste her blood. Ah! The woman screamed at the top of her lungs in pain. The difference between humans is fascinating. Man, woman, young, old, they all have a different taste, Tanjiro said, tasting the blood under his long fingernails. Ah. Get away. Please. Go away. The woman crawled as best she could, trying to get away from the demon. Pleading, pleading, I hate pleading. Tanjiro stepped on the woman's injured leg, eliciting another scream. She was about to push or hit him, but Tanjiro grabbed her wrist and broke it. Mom. Two little ones appeared at the door. Edward, Alphonse, run. Their mother shouted between tears and moans of pain. Run, get out of here. Why should they leave? Don't they want to see their mother until her last moments? Tanjiro, in one swift motion, removed the woman's arm from his body. Tanjiro enjoyed the mother's cries of pain and the whimpers of those traumatized brats. Let her go. Let go of my mom. One of the children kicked and hit Tanjiro's leg. Don't touch me. Tanjiro punched the boy, who crashed through the wall. Ow. The other boy screamed in horror, and with hatred on his face he lunged at Tanjiro. I hate when humans have that damn look in their eyes, Tanjiro said, taking the boy's face in his hands. Hate, despair, fear. They say they're not weak, but their feelings make them extremely weak. Tanjiro ripped off one of the boy's legs and one of his arms and threw them into the hallway. He wasn't even going to eat them. He just wanted to hear the boy's moans as he tried to stay alive while he bled out. Now, please excuse me for leaving you so far away, ma'am, but I had to take care of a few minor inconveniences. Tanjiro glanced at the woman weeping on the floor, covered in blood. I did Akimasu. But Nezuko. Nezuko felt happy. Spending time with her father always brought her joy. He would tell her funny stories, she would tell him about her adventures, and they would eat the food her father prepared. Then I grabbed my sword, I ran up the walls, I was getting dizzy, I swear. I threw myself on the demon and cut off its head, then the room stopped spinning, I don't even know how I landed on my feet without wobbling, Nezuko recounted while eating and her father listened. I felt really powerful at that moment. You need to practice your falls. It's not very convenient to fall on one knee. I thought I had already taught you how to fall correctly, Urokodaki replied. Yes, I'll remember that next time I fall from a high place. Nezuko grabbed a piece of meat, but her father snatched it away. Dad. I paid for this meat, you already earn money, pay for yours. I'm not going out to buy meat, it's already night. Then there's no meat for you. Don't be mean, give me some. I won't get full from just rice. No. But Dad. No. Please. No. Please, 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 she begged with puppy dog eyes. Just a piece. Yay. Urokodaki smiled inwardly. He had raised a great woman, and he was sure that as she grew older and more mature, she would be able to go very far. I'm proud of you, Nezuko. And why is this so sudden? Nezuko asked with her mouth full. It doesn't matter, appreciate the compliment. Well, thank you, Dad, Nezuko smiled at him. A rain of ashes. But Nezuko. Nezuko, cough, cough, Nezuko, go to the forest and bring back some firewood, please, Urokodaki asked his daughter. Dad, are you alright? I think you look a little pale, Nezuko asked worriedly. I'm recovering. Yesterday someone poisoned the water, the former pillar blurted out. I smelled the poison, but I had already drunk some. Poison? Why didn't you tell me sooner, Dad? Are you okay? Do you have a fever? Nezuko began to panic, though now she knew why her dad had thrown away the water he had collected for that day yesterday. I'm fine, I made myself some medicine this morning, I'll be alright, I tried to reassure her. Now go get the firewood, if the poison doesn't kill me, the cold will first. Okay, I'll try to get some plants to make you a remedy, Nezuko said hurriedly, trying to find the axe. I'll be back quickly, you rest. Nezuko left the house quickly. She had about 3 days off, and she would make sure her father was perfectly fine before he had to leave. She also wondered who had poisoned the water. She would ask the villagers when she went, perhaps that afternoon. She went to the forest, felled a tree, cut it into pieces, and with enough firewood, she returned home. But to her surprise, there was someone else. Byu. Nezuko was surprised to see her brother there. I already feel like I'm getting better. I'd almost forgotten the last time I saw them both at home, Urokodaki said, sitting on his futon. What arrogant children I raised, only for them both to come and visit me at the same time, by sheer luck. Dad, you know that being a demon slayer is a job that takes time, especially for Gyu since he's a pillar, Nezuko began, adding fuel to the fire. I know, but when I was a pillar and you stayed home, I never let you down during visits, Urokodaki said, crossing his arms. You're right, I'll try to come more often, Gyu admitted. After a long time, the family was reunited. They ate, talked, and, after a long time, laughed. Gyu had to leave that night. He had a mission to complete and had only stopped by for a visit that day. Nezuko stayed overnight at the house. Goodbye, Dad, we'll see each other later when I have another mini vacation, Nezuko said, hugging her father. It was half an hour before dawn. According to his crow, he had a mission some distance away and if he wanted to arrive by sunset, he had to leave now. It had better be soon. I won't wait another 3 months for you to deign to show up, Urakadaki said, letting go of his daughter. If you don't come back, I'll come looking for you. Sure, see you later, Dad. Goodbye, Nezuko. Nezuko looked at her father one last time before starting down the mountain. She felt happy and excited. She would go on that mission and kick some demon butt. Urakadaki watched his daughter leave and then went back into his empty home. He planned to make himself some tea. How strange, what's going on there? Nezuko saw several people from the village gathered on the road in the early morning. That wasn't normal. When she arrived she asked, excuse me, what's happening? Mrs. Elric was attacked. Her children arrived in town screaming and crying. One was almost dismembered. We don't even know how he's still alive. The other has a serious spinal injury. We believe it was a thief, but the children described him as a monster, a man informed Nezuko. Nezuko ran towards the Elric house and when she arrived, she found a massacre, a worthy act of demonic destruction. But that was impossible. Demons were always driven away from this land. Gyu patrolled this area and always kept demons at bay. It was impossible for one to have reached this far. Besides, why would they attack Mrs. Elric? There was an entire village less than a kilometer away, people they could have fed on. Fire? Nezuko smelled something burning. When she left the house, she felt a chill creep up her spine. The mountain where she had grown up, was starting to burn, far too close to her home. Dad. Narrated by the author. Nezuko ran, not caring about anything, not the cold of the early morning, nor the fact that her ribs hadn't fully healed and she was straining herself running like that. She crossed the forest. The mountain's natural mist and the ashes of the burning trees were beginning to suffocate her. When she arrived home, she wished she could have stayed a little longer with her father. You know, the blood of the elderly is like a good aged wine for humans. The damned demon, the so-called prince of demons, was outside his house, with his father lying lifeless on the ground. In the background, the trees were burning, and all Tanjiro did was revel in Nezuko's gaze. Pain in its purest essence was beginning to form. Why? Nezuko felt her heart shatter into 1,000 pieces. Why? Good question. I don't know if you know this, but I hate hunters. I love seeing the despair about to explode in their eyes. In other humans, it's simple, pathetic. In hunters, it's a joy that I'm witnessing right here with you, Tanjiro said casually, as if the forest wasn't burning and Urakadaki wasn't lying dead at his feet. You son of a bitch. Nezuko was angry, no, that was an understatement, she was absolutely furious. The pain had transformed into hatred for that demon. She had to kill him, no slowness to savor his death, she had to end his despicable life right then and there. She drew her sword, 2 plans running through her mind. 1. To kill him with her bare hands before sunrise. 2. To distract him long enough for the sun to kill him. Either way, the demon would perish. Nezuko gripped her sword and, without hesitation, charged at the demon. She was literally using her entire arsenal, from the 1st to the 12th form, all with the intention of killing the cursed creature. Tanjiro dodged the swords. The huntress was strong, but not strong enough to kill him. Before sunrise, he was sure he would see her body on the ground. He decided to escalate the fight, slashing at her skin and causing her to lose her balance several times. With small but deep cuts, he was certain she would bleed out on her own and eventually collapse to the ground, completely exhausted. You're useless, huntress. Your efforts are in vain. Stop fighting, and I'll grant your soul eternal rest. Tanjiro wasn't tired in the slightest, perhaps a little annoyed by the fog, but now, with the beautiful scent of burning wood, that forest had become a paradise for him. Never. You just took a part of me. I'm going to kill you even if I have to go with you to the very depths of hell. Nezuko was exhausted. The smell of burning and ashes seared her lungs, but she wouldn't give up. She wouldn't while that demon lived. You're stubborn indeed, Tanjiro said, lunging at the huntress. He intended to slit her throat and watch her choke on her own blood. But Nezuko was not willing to die, not today. She ran in the opposite direction, climbed a tree, and used it to launch herself down with even more force. She knew she couldn't cut off the demon's head, but at least she could cut him in some way. Nezuko's sword pierced Tanjiro's shoulder, slicing through part of his chest, and emerged from his hip. It had cut through part of Tanjiro's torso and one of his arms. He fell to the ground just as his father had taught him. I may be stubborn, but you're such a weak demon that you let a non-pillar demon slayer cut off your arm. Nezuko got back into an attack stance while the demon was in apparent shock. Are you calling me weak? Weak me? I am the prince of demons. A mere demon slayer can't harm me. Tanjiro regenerated his body and lunged at Nezuko. He struck her with the blade as she approached, grabbed her by the neck, and threw her against a tree. I will annihilate you, you cursed woman, and let your flesh rot for the crows to devour. Don't make me laugh. Nezuko stood up. A mere demon like you couldn't kill me, but I'm honestly offended. You never showed your demon blood technique during the entire fight. Is it that you don't have one? Do you really want to see my power? Ha, well, you asked for it. Nezuko prepared herself for whatever might come, although she didn't expect a wave of fire to hit her head on like a blizzard. Demon blood technique. Fire-breathing Tanjiro smiled as he saw that the demon slayer had barely escaped the fire and was still not unharmed. Damn it, Nezuko groaned as she felt a horrible burn on the middle of her neck. It was a relief to see the sun peeking slightly over the horizon. Ready to die? Huntress. Tanjiro advanced triumphantly, thinking he had already won the fight, still oblivious to the sun. Die? Heh, no, I won't die here today, not before I've killed you. Nezuko stood up, her whole body aching with pain. It seems your last request is going to be impossible to fulfill. And who decided that? Nezuko lunged at Tanjiro, using the only thing she could still do. Distract him long enough for the sun to burn him to ashes. She jumped, dodged as best she could, tried to attack. Everything was starting to feel like a game to Tanjiro. He grabbed Nezuko by the neck and slammed her to the ground, crouching down without letting go and smiling at her. Didn't you say you were going to kill me? Tanjiro mocked. And I will, ugh, I just needed time. Nezuko pierced Tanjiro's chest with her sword, with enough force that the tip of the blade stuck in the ground, trapping Tanjiro. What the hell do you think you're doing? This is never going to work, I can easily free myself. I know, but if I can keep you there for the next 10 seconds, I could say I won this fight. Nezuko smiled victoriously. Tanjiro was alarmed as he felt his skin begin to burn. It stung, it hurt more than being cut in half. No. Ugh. Damn it. Tanjiro tried to pry Nezuko free from the sword's hilt so they could escape, but Nezuko was doing everything she could to stay put. If she managed to kill the demon, she could die in peace. She had no way out of that forest anyway. She was trapped by fire. Tanjiro managed to throw Nezuko away, drew his sword from his chest, and began to run for cover from the sun. He cursed the huntress with all his being. He had never had such a miserable escape. He was furious, his pride shattered. As Nezuko crawled to her father's body, the sound of branches breaking could be heard, and the fire was spreading with increasing intensity. It was practically impossible to breathe properly with the smoke filling their lungs. I'm sorry, Dad, I'm so sorry, Nezuko clung to her father's body. I wasn't strong enough to protect you or even myself. I'm going to die here without ever being able to avenge your death. I'm sure that bastard will still be alive tomorrow. Forgive me, Dad, please forgive me. The fire consumed the mountain forest. Only a small fraction near a river managed to escape. The rest succumbed to the powerful flames. The mountain's natural features were destroyed. A rock split in half was covered by burnt trees. A small cabin was destroyed. Absolutely nothing remained. Come on, you rough girl, it's not time to die. Tears and resentment. But Tanjiro. Nakum. The door appeared in front of Tanjiro as he tried to escape the sun. He jumped inside, hit the ground, and began to breathe in short gasps as his burn slowly healed. Tanjiro. What happened to you? Muzan asked, agitated. Just moments ago he was reading, and now he found his son half dead on the floor of his office. I'm going to kill her. Ugh. I'm going to kill that damned huntress. Tanjiro stood up unsteadily as he continued to regenerate. Just figure out how to control the damned sun already, I'm fed up with it. Ugh. Ugh. Nakum, I need food. Muzan understood, reading his son's thoughts. A vein throbbed on his forehead. To say he was angry was an understatement. That huntress had tried to kill his son, the demon hunters were ruining his plans, and the sun was limiting his time. He needed to find the answer, the formula, or the damned ritual he would have to perform to control the sun. He had to find the solution. His son had to destroy the hunters once and for all, so that he could continue his path of victory and peace. But Nezuko. His body ached all over, his head throbbed, he could feel the bandages on almost his entire body, in addition to the wounds throbbing like a heart. The first thing he saw was a wooden roof. Ah, what a relief, you're finally awake, Nezuko heard a familiar voice. She slowly turned her head. There was Tomeo. Don't worry, don't get up. I barely managed to stop your internal bleeding. My dad, ugh, Nezuko struggled to speak, her throat felt dry. Tomeo saw this and offered her water. Well, Yoshino and I had been staying in the area for a while we found a new location. We saw the mountain burning, and I sent him to check if there were any injuries. He arrived with you badly hurt. What happened to you? Tanjiro Kibutsuji, my dad, I need to save my dad. Nezuko set her glass aside, delirious. He followed me to my dad's house. I need to go to my dad. Wait, Nezuko, whatever happened on the mountain was a week ago. You've been unconscious for a week. That information hit Nezuko like a bucket of ice water. You woke up 3 days ago, but you went crazy, screaming, and some of your wounds reopened. I had to sedate you so I could heal you again. Nezuko said nothing. When you're healed enough, Yoshino will take you to the butterfly estate. They can give you better care there. Tomeo could feel and see the pain Nezuko was expressing. She was devastated. I'll leave you for a moment. I'll go get you something to eat. Nezuko stood there, staring intently at the ceiling, her gaze vacant, sad, lifeless. She felt empty, as if a part of her soul had gone with that damned demon. As Tomeo said, days later Yoshino helped her reach the area around the butterfly estate. She hadn't said a word during all that time. As soon as she arrived at the estate, she was found by the girls there. Aoi made sure to heal her and sent a letter with a crow to Tomioka. According to what she had heard, the pillar had spent all these days looking for the girl. Nezuko Gyu entered Nezuko's room. As soon as he received the letter, he didn't hesitate to go to the estate. He went and hugged her, calming her. You're alive, you're alive. Gyu. Nezuko snapped out of her trance to look at her brother, slowly embracing him. Her eyes filled with tears, and she began to weep. Gyu, I let Dad die, I let him die. A mix of emotions overwhelmed Nezuko, the kind that comes with losing a family member, being a trained demon slayer, and then not seeing the signs, not being able to arrive in time, made her hate herself. Perhaps if she had listened to her father when he warned her, then none of this would have happened. That's not true, Nezuko. I don't know what happened, but I'm sure you're not to blame. Yes. I let him die, I did nothing, I let him die. Ha. Gyu, I let Papa die. Nezuko clung tighter to Gyu, releasing everything she had held back all these days. She was broken, empty, all she felt she could do was cry, lament her existence. Ah. Why? Papa. They stayed like that for hours, Nezuko crying and Gyu not knowing what to do for sure. He couldn't tell her that everything would be alright. In reality, nothing was alright now. The only person who had cared for them and loved them was dead. Nezuko felt worse than shit, and she was sure that demon was laughing at them right then. Life was sad when it came crashing down on you like a poorly constructed wall. Urakadaki's funeral was finally able to take place. They found his ashes, so to speak, and gave him a nice place in the cemetery. Gyu attended, but Nezuko, on the other hand, didn't have the courage or the mental stability to attend. Guilt gnawed at her soul, destroying her to the core. But Tanjiro. Tanjiro cursed with all his might the demon slayer who dared to leave him in such a position. He had never fled a fight so fearfully. The damned sun had ruined all his plans. If only the sun hadn't stopped him. As the days passed, he helped his father investigate the demon who controlled the sun, for without it, the demon slayer would have no choice but to die at his hands. Flowers? Tanjiro asked his father, confused. His father had been explaining his research, and it revolved around flowers. Not just any kind of flower, Tanjiro, blue spider lilies. With them we will achieve dominion over the sun, his father told him. But Dad, I've never seen those lilies before. Do you at least know where they grow? Tanjiro asked. Over the years I've sent thousands of demons in search of him. Now, I finally have a lead. Go speak with Akaza so he can investigate. After that, I have a mission for you. Muzan turned and returned to his bookcase. Tanjiro left, asking Nakam to take him to Akaza, who was in a cave hidden from the sun. Tanjiro picked up a rock and threw it at his head. Ouch. Who the hell was Tanjiro-sama? Akaza knelt down. Haha, hi Akaza, Tanjiro greeted playfully. It's a pleasure to see you again, Prince. Akaza lowered his head. Look, I have a mission for you from my father, and I hope you're capable enough to complete it, Tanjiro told him. I will carry out your orders to the letter, just give the command, Akaza assured him. Okay, I need you to find me a flower, a special one according to Dad. Tanjiro crossed his arms and explained everything Akaza had to do to complete his mission. After speaking with Akaza, Tanjiro returned to the fortress where he found his father and some children's clothes on the table. Did you just eat a child? Tanjiro asked, looking at the clothes, even though they weren't bloody. No, put on those clothes, they're for your mission, Muzan said without looking at him. That? Put it on. For your next mission, I need you to look like a child. Muzan turned and looked at his son. There's a family of doctors and herbalists I've spoken to. I told them a story, the story of my son with a strange skin disease that prevents him from going out in the sun. Since they're easily influenced, they agreed to let you stay at their home while I go on business to another country. You, Tanjiro, will go to the doctor's house and investigate a few things for me that they refused to tell me. Well, it's good that I got to practice my acting with Nakam-chan, haha, Tanjiro smiled. The bad thing is that the huntress's search will be postponed for a while. Well, if I master the sun, I'll have all the time in the world to kill her. Tanjiro, now transformed, began his charade. He appeared at the doctor's house, played the part of a studious boy, and was granted permission to rummage through the family's extensive library. Well, time to investigate. The first thing he had to do before killing the huntress was defeat that enormous star in the sky. Only then would normality return to his life. That huntress had come to disrupt his order. He had to fix it. But Nezuko. For the next month, Nezuko seemed like a soulless body, consumed by guilt to such an extent that she only ate when Aoi managed to convince her. She only responded with monosyllables, and the only thing she did each day was apologize to her father for not following his advice. If she had never become a demon slayer, perhaps everything would be better perhaps. Nezuko-chan, it's time to eat. Aoi entered Nezuko's room with a tray of food. Nezuko was sitting in a chair by the window, looking out at the garden. Today I brought you pork, rice, and some smoked vegetables. Yes, as I said, only answer with monosyllables. Come on, eat, Aoi said, bringing the tray closer to Nezuko. She took the chopsticks, a bowl of rice, and slowly began to eat. Well, it seems you're a little hungrier today. While Nezuko was there, Gyu was on a mission. He wasn't well either, but as was normal for him, he tried to keep everything hidden. Pain, sadness, sorrows, he kept it all inside, he contained it all. Nezuko, don't you want to come out? The three girls from the estate tried to get Nezuko out of her room several times a day, but it seemed impossible. Sometimes, like this, Nezuko didn't respond. What can we do? I don't know anymore. There has to be a way. The girls were talking in the corridor. They had to find a way to make Nezuko want to leave that lonely room. Excuse me, girls, could you tell me which room is Kamado Nezuko's? A woman with white hair appeared, and beside her was none other than Oyakata-sama. The girls were impressed to see the leader of the hunters on the estate. There. The girls pointed to Nezuko's room, realizing that unless it was Oyakata-sama, no one would get Nezuko out of there. The master's wife knocked on the door, and when she received no answer, she simply opened it. Nezuko was sitting on her bed by the window, staring intently outside with lifeless eyes. Good afternoon, Kamado-san. Oyakata-sama came to visit you, said the wife, leaving the master in a chair beside the bed. I'll return later. After the woman left, the room fell silent. Only the wind could be heard as it gracefully moved the leaves of the trees. A leaf flew through the window and landed on Nezuko's bed. How long are you going to continue like this? Oyakata-sama asked. I know the pain is overwhelming you, but you know that regretting it won't change anything. Nezuko said nothing. No one has seen Kibutsuji-san since the last fight. He disappeared for a while. I'll let you know when I find out anything. It's a very warm day today. You should go visit your Akadaki. I imagine she's feeling a bit lonely without her daughter visiting her. A few moments of silence passed before the master's wife took him away. Nezuko looked away from the window and toward the door, sighed, stood up, put on her shoes, and slowly left the room. Aoi and the girls were surprised to see Nezuko walk through the garden as they hung up the sheets. She passed like a ghost, without making a sound, and after a few minutes' walk, she reached the cemetery and her father's grave. Three girls decided to follow her and watch from a distance. Hi, Dad. Nezuko sat on the ground looking at the grave. Right next to it was Sabito's grave. Then she looked to the other side where there were two other empty spaces, for her and for Gyu, if they were to die as demon slayers. I lived my life with you, and yet I don't know what phrase you'd use to bring me back to reality. I wonder what you'd say if you saw me like this. You'd probably hit me for how weak I look. The sky was clear, quite beautiful, but now, in Nezuko's eyes, it appeared desolate, sad, and dull. Nezuko's world was now like staring at a painting, without understanding what the artist intended to express, and without knowing why she kept looking at it, trying to decipher its meaning. Hatred and anger still burned in her heart. She hated that demon with all her soul, but the pain was even greater, like a wave extinguishing a small bonfire. Don't worry, Dad, I swear you'll be able to rest in peace. The three girls approached Nezuko and hugged her. Her father was gone, but she still had some people to protect. If this legacy of chaos didn't end, she would end up seeing everyone around her covered in blood. My own justice. People die every day. Some you get to know, others you pass by once while walking and end up just another face in the crowd. Someone you'll never remember. But the loss of a beloved family member can plunge you into a deep, inescapable abyss where pain is the only thing keeping you alive and the desire to see them again is your greatest wish. But you know it's impossible, so you suffer even more and can't sleep at night. You long for it all to have been a bad dream, for the decisions you made to have been unreal, and for you to still be happy in a perfect dream. Nezuko was experiencing the 5 stages of grief. First. Denial. Day and night, she denied her father's death in her mind. She nearly went mad, constantly thinking about the enormous, superior smile that demon had given him the moment he saw her father lying dead on the floor. The frequent nightmares could have driven even the sanest person insane. Second stage. Anger. Her pain transformed into pure rage. She hated demons with all her being, especially that demon who dared to intrude on her life. She swore in her father's memory that she would take that being's life, even if it was the last thing she did. She didn't even care about Muzan. She wanted to kill Tanjiro. There is a third stage, called bargaining. Nezuko would try to control her emotions. She would have to think rationally so as not to hurt the few people she still cared about. Fourth stage. Depression. Nezuko would try to understand her feelings in order to overcome her father's death. Even though it was a tragic moment, she had to overcome it slowly. And fifth stage. Acceptance. Nezuko managed to stabilize her emotions, maintain her composure, and vowed to finish what she had started when she chose the path of a demon slayer. All of this would have been perfect for Nezuko to avenge her father and live in peace in the future. And it could have happened that way, had the huntress not stopped the process at the second stage. Rage invaded her body, flowed through her veins, and grew stronger with every passing second. She wouldn't stop to negotiate, overcome, or accept it until that demon lay dead beneath her feet. What she needed to find peace was her own justice, even if it was selfish. Will he like the food today? I hope so. He has to eat. 3 little girls walked through the hallways of the house, carrying a tray of food between them. They were heading to Nezuko's room, but when they opened the door, there was no girl there. Only her uniform was folded on the bed, and next to it were 2 letters addressed to 2 people. One for Gyu and one for Oyakata-sama. For my brother Gyu. Gyu, I know you'll try to pursue me, but you also understand how I feel, and you know I can't keep living while that demon breathes. Upon my return, let's both leave this place and go live peacefully in another remote sheltered place. Who knows, you might even find a partner. But if my fate is different, please fulfill the request I've made for myself. Live in the name of Sabito, Dad, and me. I love you, brother, and don't worry, I'll kill that demon, even if it's the last thing I do. The other letter read. For Oyakata-sama. Sir, in this letter I am announcing my resignation from the Demon Hunter Corps. I have decided to take a different path in my life. I wish you happiness and pray for your recovery. Nezuko Kamado says goodbye. She had just left the Demon Hunter Corps to go her own way. Had she chosen a path without thinking? More or less. The truth was, she had a month to reflect. Was it suicidal? Undoubtedly. Would it turn out as she expected? She would have to find out. 3 months later. Where is Prince Tanjiro? He pointed his katana at a demon's neck. Ashes of his companions were scattered on the ground. Only he remained. As far as I know, I haven't cut out your tongue yet to keep you quiet. She was somewhat dirty, covered in dirt and blood, with bandages on her arms and several noticeable scars from her fights. Her clothes were different now. Since she had left the Demon Slayer Corps, her usual uniform had been replaced. She wore her usual haori and a black kimono cinched at the waist. For those who don't understand, she's wearing something like this now. Wearing her pink and light black haori. Wait, you can't kill me, I can be useful to you, he pleaded pitifully on the ground. Then tell me where Prince Tanjiro is, and perhaps I'll consider eliminating you quickly and painlessly. Look on the bright side, it'll feel like you're going to sleep. My word of honor. You might be wondering, how on earth did we get into this situation? Well, after fleeing to the forest, she sought out demon nests and began killing everyone she encountered. She went to remote defenseless villages where demons were feasting. Not a single one escaped Nezuko's katana. Among the demon slayers, she was known as the Demon Slayer, who didn't charge or solicit clients for her work. Now, Nezuko needed to go even further. She would kill every demon in the world until one gave her what she wanted. Well. Ugh, I can't say it, I just can't, besides, you'll kill me anyway. You're right, bye-bye. No, wait, have mercy. Excuse me, but mercy is a gift I lack. Nezuko slashed her katana across the demon, killing it. Well, I didn't get anything useful out of this place. In the distance, she heard the sound of a train. Her gaze swept over the place. A small house littered with the carcasses of humans devoured by demons and the ashes of those demons who had attacked them. She sheathed her katana and sighed in boredom. 3 months dedicated to the search for that damn demon, and it seemed he had vanished like smoke. Nezuko had taken on many types of demons, which had caused her to level up remarkably. She never learned anything about the demon prince, so she considered that period a complete waste of time. I think it's time to go somewhere else, she said, leaving the house and heading towards the train. She bought a ticket and went to her seat, thinking she could sleep on the journey, although the atmosphere felt somewhat strange. She felt demons nearby, there was no doubt about it. The worst part was that they wouldn't even leave her alone when she wanted to sleep. She hadn't slept in 3 days. If only the demons would stop bothering her for 3 hours, that wouldn't be so bad, but no. She huffed and ended up going to explore the train. 8 cars, around 200 passengers, and a very noisy driver. Wait, she knew that orange hair. Ringoku-sama, I mean, Ringoku-san. Oh, the anti-demon assassin, the pillar said, surprised to see the girl. How have you been doing, going through life all alone? Tickets, check your tickets. The driver appeared. I've been fine, thank you. It's surprising to see you. Are you going on a mission? Nezuko gave her ticket to the gaunt man to look at, then Ringoku did the same. I'm on a mission, kid, the pillar smiled, taking another bite of his food. Delicious. Ah, I knew it, there are demons on the train, said Nezuko. Exactly, and there's just Ringoku was interrupted. There's one behind me, isn't there? Nezuko heard the passengers shouting. Oh yes. It had to be, there's one there. Let me take care of this quickly, have my food for a second. Ringoku stood up, making the height difference between them clear. Driver, it's dangerous, so move along. It's an emergency. I'd prefer you didn't ask me why I'm carrying a sword. Come on, Nezuko said, gently encouraging the pillar. She sat calmly in a seat, waiting for the pillar to do his job. For her, there was no point in interrogating that demon. None of them told her anything about Tanjiro. She had no interest in killing him if a pillar would do it for her. Big guy, were you hiding your demon blood techniques? It was hard to find you, Ringoku said to the demon who roared like an animal. However, if you're showing your fangs to innocent people, Ringoku's red flame sword will burn you to the bone. Ikami-sama, what a great presentation you have. Nezuko applauded. Ringoku, in a burst of fire, effortlessly severed the demon's head, letting the body fall to the ground with a thud, yet he never lost his smile. Hooray. Not a single injury. Tense. Thank you for your support, little assassin, Ringoku smiled, giving a thumbs up. It was already night, and everyone on the train was sleeping peacefully, even Nezuko, who was sleeping soundly, unaware of what was happening around her. Nezuko? Huh? He opened his eyes. He was in a forest. He recognized it, but it was gone. How could I? Nezuko looked not only around her, but also at her hands and body. They were small, like those of a child, and she understood nothing. Nezuko, daughter, I'm talking to you, it's almost time for dinner. Dad. Little Nezuko threw herself into Urakadaki's arms, she began to cry without wanting to break the hug. Oh, haha, what happened to my daughter that made her hug her father like this? Urakadaki laughed, holding Nezuko so she wouldn't fall. Dad, I'm so sorry. But what did you do, Nezuko? Urakadaki looked at his daughter and wiped away her tears. Nezuko began to think, what had happened? She had been on the train with Ringoku, but now she was with her father, had she imagined all of this? I don't know. Sometimes I can't understand you, Nezuko, but look over there, your brothers have already returned from training. Nezuko looked back. It was getting dark, and Gyu and Sabito were walking in her direction. Nezuko? They both smiled at her, Gyu in his own way. Brothers? Nezuko threw herself at them, hugging them tightly. And this unexpected hug. Sabito said, pleased that little Nezuko had hugged them. I have no idea, she's been acting strange ever since she went out to play. Anyway, let's go inside. Dinner's almost ready. Urakadaki started walking, Sabito picked Nezuko up while Gyu stroked her head. They entered that small cabin when Nezuko was truly happy. A cozy place where she lived with her father and brothers, a place where Nezuko's heart felt at peace. As if everything she had thought had happened to her had been just a bad dream. Abroad. 4 people were beside Nezuko and Ringoku. While everyone else was asleep, they were awake. Is she a hunter? One of them asked. I don't know, and it doesn't matter, she has a katana, we have to kill her. 2 humans tied their wrists to Ringoku and Nezuko's with string. A boy entered Nezuko's mind, saw through the window a younger version of the girl outside chatting animatedly with strangers, ignored it, and started running straight ahead. He needed to find the edge of the dream. He pulled out a pointed stick and stabbed seemingly at nothing, tearing the landscape as if it were a piece of paper. The other side was far from beautiful. The ground was black and slimy, the sky was gray and cracked, and in the distance, he heard screams of pain, anger, regret, and whimpers. But what the hell is the boy looked around. The girl's soul was broken inside. She only took a couple of steps forward when her feet were caught by the black viscous substance on the ground, which began to transform into silhouettes of that girl. They were deformed and looked as if they were about to collapse. I let my father die. I just want justice. I will kill all the demons. Damn you, Tanjiro. Those silhouettes were saying as they began to cling to the boy's body and he started to get agitated. Let me go. What kind of person is this girl? Help. The boy ended up being trapped by viscous mass and the ground became flat again. In the distance lay Nezuko's spiritual core. It had once been a creamy pink, but now it was broken and this was the source of the viscous mass oozing from its cracks, its color fading more and more. Nezuko's regret was slowly consuming her. You'll die for playing with my dreams a half. Nezuko, is something wrong? You seem a bit out of it. Sabito looked at his little sister with concern. No, it's okay, Sabito, it's just nothing's wrong. Nezuko smiled at her brother. Where's your doll, Nezuko? Gyu asked, noticing the absence of the rag doll that Nezuko carried everywhere. I don't know, little Nezuko looked around. Oh, I think I left her outside. I'll be right back. Be careful, it's going to rain very soon, his father warned him before leaving. Nezuko left the cabin, quickly found the doll. It was at the edge of the forest. The sky was tinged with a tranquil orange as the black of night began to appear. Ah ha ha, came a faint voice from within the forest, on the darkest side. Nezuko hugged her wrist fearfully. Oh, little huntress, don't you hate yourself for letting them die? Who are you? I am the reason for your anger. The smiling face of Aristides suddenly appeared from the forest. Ah. Nezuko ran back home, throwing herself into her father's arms. Nezuko? What happened? Her father asked, worried. There was something out there. Nezuko said fearfully. Go check, Urokodaki ordered the two young people. They nodded and left the house. There, my child, everything is fine. You must have seen some animal in the forest. But Dad, he spoke and told me that was the reason for my anger, Nezuko said, still hugging her father. Did he speak to you? Don't worry, your brothers will take care of whatever is out there, Nezuko's father said, stroking her head. Sabito and Gyu returned with nothing new. If Nezuko had seen anything, she was gone. When night had fallen and everyone was asleep, Nezuko peered out the window. Something wasn't right. There was something strange. She decided to go outside and investigate. The forest was dark. The only light came from a lamp in the house that was still on. It's your fault, came a whisper. If only you hadn't and another. I hate you so much. You should have died. You're being unfair. I wish I were dead. Damn demon. I have to kill him. More and more whispers filled Nezuko's ears, choking her. No matter how much she covered them, the whispers persisted. Shadows and humanoid shapes began to appear, surrounding Nezuko and whispering things to her, driving her mad. You should never have left your home. Only bring destruction. Damn that demon. Why? Everything is awful. Dad, no. Everyone be quiet. It wasn't my fault, it's all that demon's fault. Nuo. Ah. Nezuko ran home, managing to grab a small knife her father used for wood carving. The thought crossed her mind, if I'm not here, they will live. So he cut her throat from side to side. Ah. Nezuko jumped up from her train seat, her breathing ragged and sweat beading on her forehead. She looked ahead. Ringoku was holding a girl by the neck, two others were trying to help her, next to her was a boy with wide eyes, and his wrists were connected by a rope. The two awake ones looked at Nezuko. What are you all supposed to be doing? Nezuko asked, beginning to grasp the situation. Ah. The boy next to Nezuko woke up, and as soon as he saw her he began to tremble. You're rotten inside. Thank you for telling me what I already know. Now, if you don't explain what's going on right now, I'm going to throw all four of you out the window. Nezuko drew her katana. The demon. We just wanted a sweet dream. He ordered us to kill them by destroying their core. The demon didn't want to deal with hunters, a fearful girl replied. So a demon, by any chance does that demon not have a scar on its forehead? Nezuko asked, raising her katana. And no, the girl replied. Too bad, well, I still have a demon to kill. He dared to mess with my good memories. He's just stepped on dangerous ground. Nezuko cut the rope that bound her to the other boy. If you have any survival instincts, you'll find a safe place. Otherwise, wait to die here. But first, free the demon slayer. If I come back and you haven't done it, after I deal with the demon, you're next. Nezuko made her way out of the train car, jumped, and landed on the roof, where she began running toward the locomotive. Every demon had a neck, no matter how deformed, so Nezuko would have to find hers, though first she had to stop the train. Fighting on a moving train was not only suicidal, but stupid. When she reached the locomotive, she came face to face with a demon. She had never seen this one before, and she hoped it would be the last time. Oh, you're awake. Good morning, the demon greeted her calmly. You could have slept a little longer. I could, but I don't like nightmares, especially when someone else is playing with my memories. Nezuko drew her katana. Choose. Do you want to feel pain when you die, or not? I tried to show you a very nice dream. Next time I could make your father and brothers die in front of your eyes, or one where your father comes back to life and blames you for his death, the demon said calmly. Now you've hit rock bottom, demon. You'll wish for death after facing me. Nezuko braced herself. Do you think you're the first lower moon I've killed? The demon raised his hand, which hit a mouth above the knuckles, and said go to sleep. Nezuko traveled back into her mind, where she began to be attacked by her dark counterparts. She grabbed her katana and cut her throat, returning to reality. The demon, still unaware of the situation, was puzzled. "You're a bastard." Nezuko began to advance against the demon. Sleep, 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 sleep. The demon tried to use his technique against Nezuko, but she kept regaining consciousness and advancing further and further. "Stop ruining my dreams." Nezuko cut off the demon's head. It flew for a few seconds, but some kind of flesh grabbed it from the train's ceiling. "Great. Somehow, I feel that your existence makes me tremble with rage," said the demon's head. "Well, we agree on something," Nezuko said. "Let me guess, you're the whole damn train." "You're irritating, but you're right, I melted into the whole train while everyone was snoring, you understand. The 200 passengers will be my breakfast," the head smiled. "I wonder, can you stop me?" "You want to find out?" Her head dropped and disappeared into the ceiling. Nezuko sighed. At least she'd slept a few hours. She felt like a new person. The situation now was this. The passengers. She could watch over 5 or 6 cars at most. On one hand, she wanted to abandon them all and go after the demon. With luck, some would survive. But if she chose to save everyone, the demon would eventually kill her. If she had a hat, she'd take it off right in front of this demon. This test wasn't for just one person. She entered the first car. A strange mass was beginning to engulf the sleeping humans. The demon was literally going to devour them whole. Nezuko focused, gripped her katana tightly, and prepared her body. She ran, jumped, and slid through the cars, slashing at the flesh that was trying to swallow the humans. If she could, she would kill the demon in one fell swoop, but she didn't want a genocide of 200 innocent people to occur while she was killing the demon. When Nezuko reached the car she had been in before, she found the same people she had seen when she first awoke, with Rengoku already standing there. "It seems things took a turn while I was taking a nap," the pillar smiled as he drew his sword. "As a pillar, I'm ashamed of myself. If there's a hole, I want to jump right in. Why don't you help me with this instead?" Nezuko swung her sword. "Do you think you can watch over 8 train cars for a few seconds while I cut the demon's throat? How much do you need?" "At most, 2 minutes, that's all I need." "I can get it for you," smiled the orange-haired man. "Then I'll leave you here, Flame Pillar." Nezuko jumped out the window, grabbed onto the roof, climbed up, and started running towards the locomotive. The demon's neck can be anywhere, but even the novice hunter knows there will always be one. The trick here is knowing where it hides. 8 train cars, a coal yard, and the locomotive. But he didn't expect to find the conductor still there. "Who are you?" "Gee, get out of here." The driver pulled out a rod and pointed it at Nezuko. "Sir, I don't have time to attend to you right now, I'm short on time." Nezuko, with the blunt side of her knife, struck the man on the head, knocking him unconscious. She grabbed him by his jacket and threw him onto the coals. Neck, 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 where could the neck be? Nezuko didn't have time to think when countless hands began to emerge from the walls, ceiling, and floor, trying to attack her. She slashed them all, but they kept appearing. That meant they were close to her neck. She was going to push her luck. She would cut the entire locomotive in half. She raised her katana, ready to strike, when suddenly thousands of eyes appeared before her. She was transported back to the place where her shadow copies had tried to consume her. She slashed its neck and returned to reality, but she barely woke up. She saw the eyes and was immediately plunged back into her dreams. She was trapped in a loop. Nezuko, not realizing if it was reality or a dream, closed her eyes tightly and cut whatever was under her feet. "Ajai!" shrieked the demon, writhing all over. The train derailed, the mass of flesh expanded, Nezuko was ejected from the destroyed locomotive, she landed on the grass, rolling to cushion her fall, she lay on her back, she sighed, that was it now she would prefer running to traveling by train again. "You little assassin. You've done it." Rengoku appeared in front of her. "Who do you take me for?" "I'm not the little girl who was lucky enough to meet the Kibutsuges anymore." Nezuko sat down. "Dead. Only a few wounded, but this mission was a complete success," the pillar said, still smiling. "Right now you have the strength of a pillar, you impress me." "I had a good workout," Nezuko said, getting up. Interrupting everything, something fell a few meters away, catching their attention. A cloud of dust rose, and in the middle of it all, a demon with pink hair and blue lines on its body appeared. Its eyes literally said Upper Moon 3. Nezuko couldn't help but smile. Finally, a challenge. Both Rengoku and Nezuko drew their katanas. Nice swords," smiled the demon. "Tell me, demon, wouldn't you like to fight me?" Nezuko asked the demon. "No, child, I won't let you do something so suicidal," the pillar stopped her. "The demon will fight me." "Don't worry, there's enough akaza for both of you, haha," the demon smiled. "He let you have the first round." Nezuko patted Rengoku's shoulder twice and turned away. "I can't stand arrogant demons." Just leave him in the lurch. I want to interrogate him later. Leave it to me, you won't even have to worry about your turn coming, Rengoku said, raising his katana towards the demon. Akaza two halves. But Nezuko. The assassin stood apart, ready to watch the fight begin between an upper moon and a pillar. She wanted to fight the demon herself, but a pillar was there. Why waste unnecessary energy when a pillar could do it for her? In the end, she only needed 5 minutes to try and extract some information from the demon about the prince. You know what? When I see weak humans, I feel disgusted, I hate it, but that doesn't happen with you, so I think this will be a fun fight, the demon said with a smug smile, which was already making Nezuko angry. This is the first time we've met, but I already hate you, Rengoku said, gripping his sword firmly. Besides, it seems you and I have different moral values on certain things. I see, I have a wonderful proposal for you, the demon said, placing his hands on his hips. What if you become a demon too? Absolutely not, Rengoku replied quickly. I can tell by your strength just by looking at you. You're a pillar, aren't you? Your fighting spirit is quite polished. The demon gazed intently at the pillar. I am the flame pillar, Rengoku Kyaujiro. Let's stop talking and start fighting, the pillar smiled. And I am Akaza, but I'll tell you one thing, Kyaujiro, you won't be able to defeat me. Do you know why? Because you're human. Akaza pointed at Rengoku. Since you're going to age, since you're going to die, become a demon, Kyaujiro, so you can train for hundreds, no, thousands of years. To grow old and to die is the beauty of being human. Because they grow old, because they die, what they call strength is not a word used when it comes to the body, Rengoku said, looking straight ahead. I'll say it again and again. You and I have different values, no matter what kind of motivation I have. I will never become a demon. I see, Akaza said. Nezuko watched as the demon activated his demon blood technique and with momentum launched himself at Rengoku. If you don't become a demon, then I'll kill you. Akaza advanced, wanting to strike the pillar. As Akaza advanced, Rengoku firmly gripped the hilt of his sword and, leaving a trail of fire behind him, launched himself at Akaza. All that could be seen was a brutal clash, like an explosion. A normal person wouldn't be able to see the movements of either of them, but Nezuko could see that glorious fight and she had to admit it was magnificent for her level. Of all the pillars I've killed, none were fire pillars and none of them accepted my invitation. Why? Someone with such wonderful talent should have such a terrible decline. Akaza leaped into the air. It's unbearable. It's better to die while you're still young and strong. Akaza descended upon Rengoku like a meteor. The pillar's smiling demeanor had been replaced by a more neutral and focused expression. He swung his katana with power, leaving a halo of fire in his wake. This was a fight between a demon and a fire tiger, or so Nezuko thought, for she hadn't noticed when Rengoku was left in such a bad way, covered in cuts and blood, and most glaringly, he had lost an eye. Nezuko gripped the hilt of her sword attentively, already predicting that a certain pillar wouldn't be able to defeat Akaza. Even if you fight with the intention of sacrificing your body, the marvelous cuts that attacked me have already healed completely, Akaza spoke during a moment of rest. And what about you? Your left eye is injured, your ribs are broken, and your organs are damaged. No matter how you fight, a human cannot defeat demons. I will fulfill my duties. I will not let anyone here die. Rengoku smiled, raising his sword. Nezuko watched the situation intently. If you wish it, you will die here and now. Akaza shot off like an arrow. Stop right there. Nezuko shouted. The dust that had been raised settled slowly. Rengoku, who had been thrown back, was intact except for his existing injuries. Akaza was missing an arm and Nezuko stood before the demon, having severed its fist before it could strike the pillar's stomach. I won't let you kill the pillar, demon. Nezuko, in one swift motion, twisted and kicked Akaza in the face, sending him flying through the trees. Well, looks like it's my turn, pillar. Why don't you go get your wounds healed until the Kikuchi arrive? Or just stand there watching, I don't know, but you'd better take a few steps back. I'm going to make mincemeat of an upper moon. But how Rengoku was confused. Was that girl the one he'd seen a few months ago? Her fighting level had evolved drastically. Oh, brat. I don't usually kill women, so I'm going to leave you crippled for the rest of your pathetic life. Akaza emerged from the regenerating forest, his body. Haha, please be gentle with me, Nezuko said, raising her sword, ready for the fight. Arrogant brat. Akaza unsheathed his claws and lunged at Nezuko. She slashed Akaza's fingers and kicked him in the head again, burying him in the ground. Akaza pulled his head from the ground and growled. He was starting to get annoyed. He jumped to his feet and began throwing punches at Nezuko. All she could see now was a powerful demon trying to fight a hurricane, a force she couldn't predict or control, a force on her level, and perhaps even superior. Tell me, Demon Akaza, do you know anything about the demon prince? Nezuko asked in the middle of the fight. Why are you interested in knowing something about him? Let's just say I have a history with that bastard, Nezuko said, nimbly dodging Akaza's blows. Ah, now I recognize you, brat. No wonder your face seemed familiar. You're the one who brought the master down from his glory. Akaza managed to scrape Nezuko's cheek. Now I need you alive. The master will be very pleased to kill you with his own hands. That's contradictory, because I'm the one who's going to kill him, Nezuko said, burying her sword in Akaza's back. Now tell me, demon, where is that damn Tanjiro? Rod in hell, Akaza was about to try to break the sword. I already am, Nezuko swung her sword upward, slicing Akaza almost in half. It doesn't surprise me that demons are as horrible on the inside as they are on the outside, though it's more unfortunate that in some ways, I resemble you. If you keep acting so self-centered, I'm going to have to kill you myself, brat. Akaza regenerated quickly. Try it, maybe with your death I can find the location of the hidden prince. Nezuko braced herself for the wave of blows Akaza unleashed upon her. They had practically dug a massive hole in the ground. Nezuko only had minor scrapes, and Akaza was unharmed thanks to his regeneration, but he was furious. Now he knew why Tanjiro was so annoyed with this human who still hadn't died. Her self-centered way of speaking, her dying aura, and her polished sword technique only made the demon angrier. How is it possible that she Ringoku, on the other hand, watched the fight in awe? A girl who was no longer even part of the demon body was matching the power of an upper moon, and not only that, she was defeating him. What had she been doing these last 3 months? At least she's still human. You're a damn human. Die already. Azaka was throwing punches like a madman, he was beyond furious, that damn human was driving him crazy. I will die, but not today, nor in this fight. Nezuko cut off both of the demon's arms, kicked him in the chest, knocking him to the ground, and fell on top of him, breaking his torso. To finish him off, she plunged her sword into the middle of the demon's neck. Tell me, Akaza, have you thought about dying? Damn human. You're scum. I'll kill you. Akaza's arms began to regenerate. One did so quickly. He was going to attack Nezuko, but this arm began to turn to dust. Then Akaza noticed the dawn. Bingo. Nezuko smiled slightly, watching as the demon's skin began to burn. Kaya. The demon's shrieks and screams could be heard. Akaza, with his other arm which had already regenerated, began to scratch Nezuko's body trying to get her off him, but the sword in his throat prevented him from destroying her. Damn human. Akaza turned to ashes until he was dead. Upper Moon 3 was dead. Nezuko stood up, dusted herself off, and sighed. Her body was killing her from the inside. She was beginning to feel the price of pushing herself to such limits. She felt her lungs fill with blood, her mouth and throat tasted of iron, and she began to spit blood as her mind gradually clouded over. Little assassin girl, Ringoku slowly advanced towards Nezuko. I'm fine, Nezuko managed to say. Wait until the Kakushis arrive, I'm leaving. No, wait, you're badly injured, come to the estate so they can treat you, Ringoku insisted, seeing the wounds all over Nezuko's body. I'm fine, it's not time to rest, there are more demons I must kill. After saying that, Nezuko began walking towards the forest until she disappeared from the pillar's sight. A tormented soul, that's what crossed Ringoku's mind for a moment. Nezuko didn't look human, nor did she look like a demon. She seemed like a soul seeking irremediable revenge. In pursuing her own path of vengeance, she had entered a dark path where she didn't even know what she truly wanted. She wouldn't stop until she achieved her goal. Trapped within her own mind, her being grew increasingly unstable. She heard her father's voice, the demon's laughter, her uncontrollable cries for help. Time became irrelevant in her mind. She was no longer aware of what she was doing or not doing. She only became aware of the situation when it was all over, like when she realized she had killed the 6 crescent moons. Wouldn't you like some tea? No. Nezuko had crossed paths with Tomeo after the fight with the 6 demons. The demon had found Nezuko on the verge of death, poisoned, and tried to heal her. Somehow, Nezuko was still alive. Tomeo was worried about the girl. She looked physically broken, and who knew what was going on in her mind. She looks dead, Yoshino said, earning a punch from Tomeo. What? It's true, she looks like a corpse. Don't say things like that, she's just lost, Tomeo said, worried. Yes, I should be dead after killing 3 powerful demons, Yoshino said, crossing her arms. Both demons stared at Nezuko. She said nothing. Her breathing was practically undetectable. If it weren't for her blinking, anyone would have assumed she was dead. It was also baffling how she could still walk. Meanwhile, Nezuko was trapped in her own mind. Her thoughts had become a chain around her neck. You should die. Useless. You haven't killed Tanjiro yet. Weak. Do those voices never fall silent? They are persistent and repeat the same thing over and over, even in your dreams they keep talking and talking, lost in a strange world, thousands of eyes behind you, no one would come to save you, you are lost. My sword needs I need a new one. Nezuko stood up. What? No, wait, you're not healed yet, you have internal injuries, Tomeo tried to stop her. I need another sword. Nezuko didn't hear and started to leave. Leave her alone, we can't stop a dead person, Yoshino said, stopping Tomeo. Both demons watched as Nezuko left the place and began to walk, lost in her thoughts. Nezuko needed to complete her objective to stay alive. She needed to die to find peace. Cancelled. I quit. It's over. The story is cancelled. Because? No, just kidding lol. Well, partly yes, to be honest, from the moment I started this story I wasn't completely convinced, since I had started with a success, my first fanfic, and then this story seemed like a Chinese copy of the previous one. Based on that, the story declined to the point that Nezuko ended up being hated L. I admit it, even I know I went overboard with the character, Gomennasai. But anyway, I'll end up cancelling the story, since there's no point in continuing it when nobody likes it, I don't like it anymore either. If anyone wants to copy the basic premise of the story and create their own fanfic with better development than mine, just send me a message and I'll give you permission to copy my story without having to plagiarize it. Well, that was all. Sure, if you want to know what the ending I had planned would have been, feel free to comment. If I see several people interested, I'll write a short summary of the ending, so you don't have to wonder how that catastrophe up there would have ended. That's all for now. Who knows if I'll ever post again. This might be my last post. Anyway, I'm signing off. The possible ending. After leaving Tomeo's hideout, Nezuko heads to the blacksmith village intending to buy a new sword, as hers was worn from so many battles. Upon arriving at the village, she encounters the Love Pillar and the Mist Slayer at different times, but ignores them. It is then that Upper Moon 4 and 5 appear, sent by Muzan to kill Nezuko directly. The Love Pillar and the Mist Slayer immediately come to her aid, but just as they are about to defeat her, Tanjiro appears, having emerged from his hiding place, burning with fury against the former Demon Slayer. Nezuko immediately lunges at Tanjiro to fight. Their battle drags on until dawn. The Pillars, who had just killed the Upper Moons, rush to Nezuko's aid, but find Tanjiro kicking her with a stingray. Before she falls, Nezuko grabs his foot and pulls him down with her. They tumble several meters to a field of flowers bathed in sunlight. Nezuko initially fears Tanjiro will die, but after a few seconds of staring at the sun in fear, she realizes he hasn't. It is then that they discover Tanjiro is capable of standing in sunlight, the number one threat to demons. Before Tanjiro can say or do anything, a door appears beneath him, pulling him inside. Tanjiro stood before his father, who no longer saw him as his son. Now he was his latest experiment. Hurt by the betrayal, Tanjiro ran to drink all the vials Muzan kept filled with his blood. He was freed from the curse and began to fight his father and Nakim. Only one person knows how that fight ended. The others can only speculate. The betrayed son of the former king became the new demon king overnight. Meanwhile, Nezuko was in a deep depression. That which she wanted to kill was now indestructible. Her mind told her she could never avenge her family. She had left Gyu alone. She felt like scum, with no reason to exist. She was ready to take her own life, but she wanted to visit one last place before surely going to hell. She arrived at a small village, deep within a large cold forest. There she found a practically ruined cabin. Her first family lay dead inside. She had never been back. She supposed she should ask for forgiveness before never returning. As the sun touched the horizon, Tanjiro appeared behind Nezuko. They had a short pleasant conversation, both with ideas in mind. Nezuko, to use her last ace up her sleeve, and Tanjiro, to recruit an annoying but useful human. Tanjiro had something else in mind. He had achieved his father's sole objective, but there was something his father had always overlooked. The power of the Demon Slayers. If he had turned the Demon Slayers into demons from the beginning, centuries ago the demons would have ruled the world. Now, he would begin a new reign, one perfectly balanced. At one point, Tanjiro proposed to Nezuko that she become a demon, allowing her to forget everything and start anew. Nezuko, distressed and defeated, pretended to accept. Excited, Tanjiro cut his wrists to give her blood. Just as she was about to drink, he injected 3 needles into his arm. Upon feeling the needles, he forced his blood to flow for Nezuko to drink. They both hoped their plan would work, but everything began to change. Tanjiro, the current demon king, could see his size shrinking, his skin losing color, his heart pounding, and an inexplicable pain coursing through his body. Nezuko, the former demon slayer, saw her body turn pale, her fangs sharpening, and a strange thirst for a liquid with an iron taste. Nezuko's last ace in the hole was Tomeo's painstaking work. The ability to transform demons into humans. Nezuko had been supplying her with a vast array of demon blood connected to Muzan, and this was how she achieved her greatest invention, which was now taking effect on Tanjiro, painfully turning him into a human. His human form was that of a child, almost a baby. Nezuko immediately recognized him. He was the child in the photograph, the only picture she had of her blood relatives. As Nezuko's madness intensified, her body mutated, her eyes becoming cat-like pupils, her nails lengthening, and her skin growing paler. The scent of humanity reached her nose. It was baby Tanjiro. What happened next is a product of her imagination. We see Nezuko sitting atop a hill, gazing emotionlessly at the horizon as the sun rises in the distance, a tear rolling down her cheek. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.